In the game of baseball, there is a special place. A place built by tradition and lit by the warm glow of memory. A cherished and fertile proving ground where legends are cultivated. A field of dreamers. They come to fulfill a promise to themselves, to write an epic story on diamond-shaped pages. It doesn't matter what jersey they wear. This is where they play their best. It's as pure as the smile on a face, and as powerful as history in the making. And no matter where the game has taken them, they still long to come back. They have built it, and now we have come. Welcome to the MLB Network Showcase. It isn't heaven, but it's pretty darn close.
Our thanks to Ray Liotta as we watch Derek Jeter just simply playing catch and getting loose before the game. That facade, that impassive facade, didn't hold up. You could see him taking deep breaths and sighing, just getting ready for this game.
I think if I were Derek, I would want the first out of the game hit right at me.
Sure.
On one hop and get the same routine going, because obviously this is it is a especially tense night for it.
As you look at the night sky over the Bronx, so many people said to me today, considering the rain that was falling in the afternoon and the forecast, no way they will play this game.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying we should believe in omens or an unseen hand. On the other hand, given what was expected and given what the weather is now, maybe even Mother Nature is on Derek Jeter's side.
Well, it turned out perfectly, and I'll tell you, I don't take lightly what a treat it is to be a part of this.
Let's go to Tom Verducci.
Well, you go back to the 1929 Yankees, guys. They popularized with players wearing a uniform number on the back of the jersey. Now, when Derek Jeter takes the field tonight, it will be the final time someone wears a single-digit number in pinstripes. Of course, all the other single-digit numbers are retired. Number 2, the last one remaining, soon will be retired. And the man who really was instrumental in assigning Derek that number 2 back in the 1995 spring training camp of the Yankees, his first manager, Buck Showalter, who is here tonight, of course, as the manager of the Baltimore Orioles.
You know, apparently in 1995, when they were trying to decide, clubhouse guys and whatnot, what number did we give the kid? Showalter said, what the heck? Give him number 2. Right. Even then saw something in him, because single-digit numbers for any team, but especially for this team, considering the history and Monument Park and all the retired numbers, you don't do that lightly.
You're going to see a lot of those things you just looked at there tonight. 14-time All-Star, all the accolades, and boy, look at Derek Jeter next to trainer Stevie Donahue. Let's get the game started, he says. Wow.
Picking up on what Tom talked about, a number of players wore number 2 for the Yankees over the years. Probably the most significant one, Bobby Mercer.
Last player to wear number 2 was Mike Gallego.
So many ways to express what he has done over his long and storied career. The objective achievements, the sheer numbers, make him a first ballot Hall of Famer, and it should be unanimous, but no one is ever elected unanimously. There are always a few holdouts, but the numbers alone don't explain the outpouring and the attention being paid all season long and then tonight. That has to do with his presence and the way he's carried himself. And also, even if you coupled all that with the numbers, if he played for a different team, or if he played for this team, let's say during the period that Don Mattingly did, when they weren't always playing in October, you wouldn't have the combination of factors that have made him so unforgettable.
You know what? One word that we don't hear a lot of when you talk about Derek Jeter that has allowed him to do what he's done for this longer period of time is toughness. His managers, his teammates will all talk about that. He showed up to play every day, never made excuses. He said, if I'm here in uniform, ready to play, I play. I don't care about what might be hurting me. And again, Bob, you mentioned the deep breaths, the pacing from step to step. It's beginning, I think, it's beginning to hit him what this night means.
He has been, by any measure, a truly great player. But he has also been a presence. 20 years in one uniform. Brooks Robinson and Yaz each played 23 for one team and one team only, the Orioles and the Red Sox. Mel Ott with the Giants, Cap Anson with the White Sox, Al Kaline with the Tigers, Stan Musial with the Cardinals, 22 years. So he's not the longest with only one team, but he's up there 20 straight years, and in an era when even great players seem to move around from team to team. He's been a fixture with one team. And although the Yankees will not make the playoffs now for the second time in a row, during virtually all of that two-decade stretch, they have been a contending team. They've been in the World Series 8 times with him on their roster. So you put all that together, and it isn't just Yankee fans. Anybody who calls themselves a baseball fan has basically followed Derek Jeter for 20 years.
And I doubt we'll ever see another player play for one team for as long as Derek has played for the Yankees. And taking it all in, deep breaths.
And the first of what could be several acknowledgments tonight as he tips his cap to the crowd.
Yeah, for those not familiar with the bleacher creatures, they shout out the player's name, and Derek has always done that customary tip the hat and wave to him.
Almost lost in the shuffle. Hiroki Kuroda is the Yankees starter tonight. And young Kevin Gausman will start for the Orioles. Jeter has faced him 3 times with 1 hit, a single.
Getting back to the actual game, Kuroda, what a run he's had with the Yankees. Look at his overall numbers. Don't look that good, but he has been a very solid performer every time he takes the mound for the Yankees.
Derek Jeter does not need anyone to pad his statistics.
No.
Won 5 World Series, went to the World Series 7 times, not 8, on the losing end twice.
You know, I don't say this disrespectfully, but about a decade ago there was a lot of talk. Well, there's Nomar Garciaparra, Alex Rodriguez, and then there's Derek Jeter. He's third. And I said you have to watch him play every day and understand that even though those guys have better statistics, he brings more to the table and to the team than just statistics.
Let's get some thoughts from Tom.
Yeah, guys, a few things I'd like to get into tonight. Going back to the first season in the major leagues from Derek Jeter when he was a non-roster player, I thought that was the first sign of Jetership, his unique way of leading. And also for me, the real highlight of his career, 2000 World Series. I got a story when he was truly the Prince of the City. And finally, Jim, I know you touched on this, the toughness of Derek Jeter. 16 years he's played more than 140 games, including this one.
And finally, we're underway. Nick Markakis steps in and takes down and in, and they toss the ball out of play. One of many keepsakes. They've all been collected as we approach 160 games on the season. The plate umpire is Adam Hamari in only his second year in the major leagues. Brian Honora at first, DJ Rayburn at second, crew chief Jeff Kellogg at third. The 1-1 pitch to Markakis. 1-2. Markakis has played nearly 1,400 major league games without ever making it to the postseason. He was with the Orioles in 2012, but a pitch from CC Sabathia broke his thumb, and he was on the DL when they got to October. He lofts one to deep right. Forget about it. This is the way the game starts with the Orioles, who lead the majors in home runs, jumping in front 1-0. That's number 206 for them as a team, and number 14 for the season for Markakis. And wishing to remain in good standing with his or her fellow citizens. Whoever caught it rejects it.
And of course, we mentioned the meaningless game from a Yankee standpoint, but point out again that the Orioles still have a possibility of having the best record in the American League and having home field advantage.
They will have home field advantage in the division series, which will start on Thursday against the American League Central winner in Baltimore. But should they meet the Angels in the ALCS, it would be nice from Baltimore's perspective to have home field. They have the tiebreaker because they won 4-6 head-to-head against the Angels. But at present, with 4 games left on their schedule and 3 remaining for the Angels, they're 2.5 behind. But let's say they win all 4 of their remaining games. It's conceivable that the Angels could lose 2 out of 3 in Seattle this weekend, in which case it would be the Orioles who have the best overall record. And I asked him, and now it appears as if we'll get this game in. At least we have our fingers crossed. But if this game were rained out, would you be happy to come back here from Toronto on Monday, give Derek Jeter another chance at a final home game if it meant that you had a chance to seize home field advantage? He said absolutely. This ball's lofted to right. Back goes Ichiro, and this one is out as well. Alejandro Diaza back-to-back with Nick Markakis. And it's 2-0 Baltimore. That's his 8th. He started the year with the White Sox. Comes over to Baltimore and has been a contributor for the O's. This guy says I'm going to keep it.
Well, not that the Orioles need any help, but a park like this and with the winds tonight, you get it airborne to right field. We may see a few more of those.
Guy was wearing Joe Pepitone's old number 25. Or was Pepe 20?
I think he was 25.
Well, we'll check. Here's Adam Jones, and that's foul.
But we know, as you pointed out, no one will wear a single-digit number.
Nope.
Anymore for the Yankees.
They've retired Torres. Jeter will be next. Now, if Jeter plays as a young old-timer on Old Timers Day, then they'll break the uniform out of mothballs and he'll wear it again. Homers by Markakis and Diaza to start the game. Adam Jones is at 27 of his own. And here's an interesting number. Talk about consistency. He's hitting .282. If he stays in the 280s, it'll be the 5th straight year that he's hit in the 280s.
I was talking to Buck Showalter about the next Derek Jeter. We talk about Mike Trout, maybe the best all-around player in the game right now, but look at what Adam Jones has done. You mentioned the batting average, the durability. Toughness is one of Derek Jeter's trademarks. Adam Jones is out there every day. Gold Glover, good hitter, has power. He's going to be one of the best all-around players for years to come, barring injury. He's won 3 Gold Gloves. A little roller, charged at third base by Headley, and he throws him out. And in fact, for those of you scoring obscure stats at home, Joe Pepitone was number 25. Yeah. Nelson Cruz has had 25 career at-bats against Hiroki Kuroda with only 3 hits, none of them home runs. He leads the major leagues with 40 round trippers. Kuroda is 11-9. His ERA is 3.77. In the big leagues with the Dodgers and then the Yankees, he's at break even. 79 wins, 79 losses. Doesn't sound like an overly impressive number, but it is, to keep your ERA under 4 year after year, and he's one of the rare pitchers that have done that. His 1-1 to Cruz is lined to left, and coming in for the catch is Chris Young. The former Met has had some big hits for the Yankees. Yeah, he did his share to keep them in it for a while. I told Joe Girardi tonight, congratulations to keep this team alive for this long with just 4 games to go with all the injuries. I think it's pretty remarkable. And of course, a lot of it is his great bullpen.
That has been a strength, but they've had lots of weaknesses. They're an older team as they shift on Pierce. 3 infielders on the left side. They're an older team that probably is due for an overhaul in the offseason. The old approach of acquiring expensive free agents who are perhaps past their prime or getting close to that point hasn't worked as well of late for the Yankees. Headley at third, and that'll do it. Homers for Markakis and Diaza to start the game. Jeter will be second up in the bottom half with his team trailing by 2.
Plays you will ever see by a shortstop.
You know, Jim, when you think about the flip play against the A's in the playoffs, not only did it show presence of mind, but we've been around thousands of baseball games before that and thousands since, and I can't recall ever seeing that play.
And with Derek's answer, I was supposed to be there. You know, that's that field awareness where he always knows where the ball is and where he could go to help out his team, and that was about as good an example of it, that flip play.
Jeter often chats with the fans when he's in the on-deck circle.
Well, Tom Verducci is going to have, so I look at that number 2 in the jersey, and we'll let Tom talk about that, but he has so much information on what Derek has meant to the game and what he's accomplished and what the fans think of him.
You know, you mentioned what a good job Joe Girardi has done just keeping them reasonably close to contention, and now it's somewhat easier with the second wild card with a patchwork lineup. He's going mostly with veterans here because this game means something to the Orioles. He said when we get to Boston tomorrow, neither team with much to play for might be a different story. The Yankees used 53 players prior to September 1st when the rosters expanded. Only the Texas Rangers, who had a woeful year and were hit harder by injuries than almost anyone, only the Rangers used more with 59. The 1-1 to Gardner. You know, there is a feeling here, even though we can point out that the game still could have some meaning for the Orioles. There's a feeling that everything, including the homers by Markakis and Diaza, are really secondary to Derek Jeter. Everyone's just waiting for Jeter to bat or to have a chance in the field.
No question.
This will be the only game he ever plays at Yankee Stadium after his team had been mathematically eliminated.
That's an amazing stat that Tom had pointed out. For those of you that didn't hear it earlier, I'm sure he'll refer to it again.
Hit toward the hole, and it's through for a base hit.
Derek Jeter, number 2.
Palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous. On the surface, he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. He opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking now. Everybody's choking now. The clock's run out. Time's up.
You know, quite a contrast. The classic and dulcet tones of Bob Shepard, and then his walk-up song is from Eminem.
I thought that was Neil Diamond.
Not quite.
No.
Not quite. 253 for the year with 4 home runs. 1 for 3 lifetime against Gosman.
Flash bulbs or cell phones popping all around the stadium.
Bob Shepard will be heard at Yankee Stadium for the last time tonight. He was the public address announcer here from 1951 through 2007. Died in 2010 at the age of 99. But Derek asked that his classic walk-up announcement be Bob Shepard and Bob Shepard only until tonight, or through tonight. Every seat sold, none of them in use right now. Everybody's standing. The 2-0 pitch. 3-0.
Yeah, and equally nervous is Kevin Gausman. You don't want to be the pitcher that hits Derek Jeter on a night like tonight, so I think you can be rest assured of seeing something out over the plate.
Gausman is 23 years old, barely 2 years removed from LSU. Drafted 4th overall in 2012 and the first pitcher taken by the Orioles, and then fast-tracked to the major leagues. That one's in there. For the season, Gausman is 7-7 with an ERA of 3.57. He's gone 6 starts since his last victory on August 17th, although he's pitched reasonably well and pitched in some tough luck during that stretch. Jeter glanced down at Rob Thompson, the coach, at third. And Gardner dives back at first. And the fans boo that, not because it doesn't make baseball sense, but simply because anything that takes their attention away from Derek Jeter tonight is something they resent. Charles Jeter watching from his usual perch. Gardner goes. A drive to deep left. Going back is Diaz. Way back. And it's off the wall. Here comes Gardner around third on a double by Jeter, and it's a 2-1 game. .544th two-bagger of number 2's career. Here's McCann. A late swing and a miss.
We've almost come to take that for granted, that that's what's going to happen when he steps up in these situations, even in, I think, showing more nervousness tonight than we've seen on his face.
Three infielders on the right side for McCann. The ball skips away. Jeter sprints for third and makes it. So Jeter at third with nobody out after a wild pitch. The catcher, Caleb Joseph, who replaced Matt Wieters, who's out for the year, adjusting his mask. You know, it's amazing that the Orioles have done as well as they have without Matt Wieters for a huge portion of the season, without Manny Machado, who's also done for the year, without Chris Davis, who wasn't having anywhere near the year he had a year ago, 26 homers as against 53 and batting under 200, but nonetheless a presence in the lineup, and he's suspended for 25 games because of amphetamine use, and in theory not eligible until the 9th game of the postseason if they get that far. To have that kind of record, missing 3 important pieces, is nothing short of remarkable. Gausman throws very hard. His average fastball is around 95, among the tops in the majors. Base hit, or is it? It's going to tie the game either way. The throw to first is not in time. Your first thought when it's hit in that spot is that all these years watching baseball, it's a base hit. But with the shift on, they actually had a chance to get him. but it wasn't played cleanly. Jeter comes home. The game is tied.
Well, the only category he's second is runs scored. He won't catch the babe, but he's 1 run closer.
And it is ruled a base hit. McCann will never be described as speedy, so they had a chance at him at first, but he beat it out. And here's Mark Teixeira. 22 home runs, but an average of just .219. A bad wrist has plagued him all season. And he's late on that one. 0-2. They now change the scoring from base hit from McCann to E4. Kelly Johnson charged with the error. And that's out of play. Three infielders on the right side for the switch hitter Teixeira as he bats lefty here against Gausman. A huge expanse of undefended territory on the left side. Blocked by Joseph, and McCann isn't going anywhere. Orioles got 2 in the top half on homers by Markakis and Diaz. Yankees have come right back with 2 in the bottom half, and still nobody out. The 1-2 struck him out.
Well, talk to Don Mattingly, other managers, about hitting mechanics these days. Run scoring's down, hitting is down, and that swing there is a good example by Teixeira. But watch Derek Jeter. The one thing he has done through his whole career and gotten better at is hitters will use the expression keep the handle, keep the hands inside the baseball. He keeps the bat going through the hitting area, unlike a lot of hitters that are wail and bail and striking out a lot more often.
Switch hitter Chase Headley takes a strike.
In fact, when you see stills of his swing, you recall images of Joe D. It almost looks very similar to the way the bat went through the hitting area.
A ball and a strike. When you look at Headley, you're reminded of the fact that even though they play at Yankee Stadium and wear the pinstripes, once Derek Jeter is gone, the last real day-to-day connection to the most recent glory era will also be gone. And when you look with a clear eye at this roster, the Yankees are a very, very flawed team. It's going to have to answer a lot of questions in the offseason. Shattered bat, roller to the right side. They get McCann at second, on to first, and Headley beats it there. So that'll bring up Chris Young. Those are his combined numbers in Queens and in the Bronx. Had a couple of very big late home runs in September games when the Yankees still had some hope of snaring a wild card. Now on the left side.
Yeah, the Orioles, they're the poster team here early in this game for shifting on everyone. And of course, that's become quite the norm in today's game with all the statistics available to managers to show where hitters hit the ball off certain pitchers.
Outfield closer to straightaway, but shifted on the infield. So when you look at the Yankees, Alex Rodriguez will come back and be eligible to play. Is he the third baseman? How much will he DH? Do you hang on to Headley and have him play third? Can A-Rod learn to play first base depending upon what they can get out of Teixeira? And who is their shortstop to replace Jeter?
Might be on the opposing team tonight.
Could be J.J. Hardy, who will be a free agent after this year. He says his preference is to re-sign with the Orioles, but he'd be foolish not to listen to all offers.
Well, that'll be some tough job coming in here to play shortstop.
Would they go in the direction of an aging but still useful Jimmy Rollins, a Jose Reyes? Blue Jays might make him available. Hanley Ramirez with the Dodgers. All possibilities. That's out of play. One thing we can say for certain, it doesn't matter if the next person comes in and hits .320 and does everything right. In the hearts of the fans, won't be Derek Jeter.
Special night, special moment, special career.
J.J. Hardy is already aware of this. If he comes over here, he's got to change uniform numbers. He won't get the number 2 he wears with the Orioles. The 1-2 to Chris Young. If you're just joining us, you've already missed a moment. Derek Jeter with an RBI double. Hit off the bullpen fence in left center field and chased Brett Gardner home. And then Jeter himself later scored the game-tying run. 2-2 in the bottom of the first. Two and two.
Well, Buck Showalter has 16 pitchers on his roster with the call-ups, and the way Gausman is working through the first inning here with a high pitch count, he's going to dip into that bullpen a little quicker than he wants to in the days of pitch counts.
Full count. This will be Gausman's 30th pitch of the inning. Headley will be running from first. Joseph with the sign, and Gausman brings it home to Chris Young. A bouncer, fair. Long throw across the diamond, safe. Jimmy Paredes backhanded it, but his throw may have pulled Steve Pearce off the bag. We'll take another look.
Yeah, nice play by Pearce, just coming off the bag and fielding the one-hop throw.
It's ruled a hit. The throw would have beaten him if Pearce could have held the bag, but that wasn't possible.
Again, Bob pointed out that's where the Orioles would like to have Manny Machado. Pearce, on the other hand, there's a guy who hasn't gotten a lot of love, who's had a terrific year for the Orioles.
They have had a lot of contributors.
Another shift again
for Stephen Drew, who between the Red Sox and the Yanks has hit just 165 for the year with 7 home runs. When he came over here, since his primary position is shortstop, a lot of people might have thought of him as a potential successor to Jeter, but his value has diminished considerably when you look at that 165. And he will be a free agent after this year.
Well, another thing to point out, since we're talking all about what Derek has accomplished, is look around baseball and see where you might find a shortstop that'll give you 140 or 145 games a year.
Well, until he missed basically all of 2013. He had averaged 151 games a year from 96 through 2012.
Most teams need about 3 shortstops to get them through the season.
One and two to Stephen Drew. Only Omar Vizquel has played more games at shortstop in the history of Major League Baseball than Derek Jeter.
Wow, this is painful.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, 2 on, 2 in, a 2-2 game on number 2's night.
Yeah. I think after Gausman saw those 2 home runs go out in the first inning, he's a little defensive with his pitches.
And a high drive to right. But this one, as they said in Major League, quoting Tom Berenger, doesn't quite have the distance. Taken by Markakis, the Yankees settle for 2 as they leave 2, and after 1, it's a 2-2 game. This MLB Network Showcase is presented by Chevrolet. Find new roads, and sponsored in part by Gatorade. Gatorade knows it all begins within. Win from within and by Degree. With new improved motion sense, the more you move, the more it protects. On to the second, J.J. Hardy, Kelly Johnson, and Jimmy Paredes for the Orioles. And we are joined in the booth by Joe Torre. The bulk of Derek Jeter's career spent under Joe Torre as his manager. Joe, what comes to mind as it winds down here?
Right now, I'm nostalgic about this whole thing tonight. What comes to mind is how grown up he was right from the get-go. And, you know, halfway or about 2/3 of the way through the '96 season, the veterans were looking for him to do something. And that's very unusual when you're talking about a rookie.
Yeah, that's what I remember Paul O'Neill telling me that.
Yeah.
He said, you know, it's already Derek's team to think of a guy that young already getting the respect from the veterans.
And again, he didn't do anything flashy. All he did was show up every day and work. And the first spring, you remember the talk was we were going to look for a shortstop to start the season with. You know, he didn't have a particularly good spring, but you couldn't tell by his demeanor. And you know, that has to impress anybody.
After J.J. Hardy strikes out on 3 pitches, the hitter is Kelly Johnson. Now, tell us this. He's a near perfect player. Everybody goes into slumps, but it's hard to think of Derek Jeter making a mistake or having to be corrected or scolded. Did it ever happen?
Yeah, his first year. His first year, we're in Chicago. It's a tie game or a 1-run game. He's at second base, 2 out, and I had so much trust in him by this time. I didn't like put a hold on him. I just put him on his own on the base path. And who's up to bat but the cleanup hitter, Cecil Fielder, and all of a sudden he takes off at third base with 2 out, and I said, oh no, and he's out and the inning's over. I throw something on the ground, and I'm mad at myself now because I've given him this trust, and not that he hadn't earned it.
Here he is. Quick throw off the mark. And Teixeira tried to save him with a sweep tag after snaring it, but couldn't quite pull it off.
And that's my favorite play to watch him make. That's his signature play.
That's his signature play.
Well, he's more nervous tonight, Joe, than I've seen him in postseason play.
I mean, this is pressure for him.
Yeah.
I mean, anything that spotlights him as opposed to the team is, but you're right, this is his play, and he just didn't finish it.
Yep.
So, you know, I'm mad. I said to Zim, I said, I'm not going to talk to him. I'm going to wait, because he stayed out in the field, obviously. It was the 3rd out. They brought him his glove. So I said, I'll wait till tomorrow because we still have a game to win. Well, when 3 up, 3 down for the White Sox, he comes in, and what does he do? He just wedges himself between Zimmer and myself. I said, just get out of here. I hit him on the back of the head. I said, get out of here. You know, he always asked if this was right or that was wrong. And he never stopped doing that, even to my last year there.
So he was waiting for the discipline.
He was waiting for the. He knew here I had come. You might as well get me. I might as well do it right now instead of go hiding at the end of the dugout.
You know, tonight is an example of a saying that Timmy McCarver, our mutual friend, told me that you coined years ago, and I've used it often. The key to playing this game is to be intense without being tense. And there's a little tension there tonight.
Another chance for him. Again charging. This time on the money.
Yeah, he finished that one, the throw.
Divine providence. He got a quick reprieve.
Well, Derek, anytime he had to do something for himself, I remember we had already clinched, but you see the difference here. He comes across and really whips the throw. But we clinched. I said, you want to take a few days off? He says, no, I just want to play. So, you know, he's trying to hit his 20th home. Whatever he was trying to do, he wasn't doing it very well. He said to me after the season, before the playoffs, he said, next time, Mr. Torrey, I'm going to listen to you.
And he always called you Mr. Torrey.
And then it, you know, eventually shortened to Mr. T, and now it's Buddy, so I'm one of the guys.
But while you were his manager, it was never Joe?
It was never Joe. It was never Joe. And Posada did the same thing, and that was based on Derek.
A strike to Caleb Joseph, who is hitting 9th. We're only in the second. The evening has already featured a long RBI double from Derek Jeter, and then on the flip side, an E6 here in the second inning. Joseph is hitting .212 in 241 at-bats since essentially becoming the everyday catcher when Matt Wieters went down. He has 9 home runs.
And how huge was he, acquisition-wise?
Yeah.
You know, Wieters goes down, and you figure they're cooked, and this kid come in and save their bacon.
Yeah, Yankees aren't the only team, and they're all over baseball. I mean, this table list is full of regular players that teams have had to find replacements for.
Kelly Johnson at second with 2 out. And a little check swing to the right side. Kuroda covers. Teixeira shovels it to him. And that finishes the Orioles in the top of the second. So the Jeter era doesn't hurt. And it's still a 2-2 game as the Yankees come up in the bottom half of the second. Welcome back to the MLB Network Showcase presented by Chevrolet with Jim Cott and Tom Verducci, Bob Costas at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. And for this second inning, Joe Torre joins us in the booth. This has been an eventful year for you. Enshrinement in the Hall of Fame, official retirement of your own uniform number. Now everything leading up to this night in the Bronx, last game for Derek Jeter. And there are your numbers with him.
It's I told him tonight when I saw him before the game, I said it was an honor. I mean, this time here with the Yankees was so memorable for me.
Well, memorable for you. How lucky was I? I started doing games when, well, Buck was the manager the first year. Then you and Zim came in, and Derek. So I got to ride that wave along with you guys and have the best seat in the house for it. I didn't have all the decisions to make that you and Zim had to make down there. It was fun.
Yeah, it was certainly special, and it went by so quickly. And, you know, you look at Derek now. You know, he's 20 years up here, 40 years old, and he hasn't really missed a beat as far as his devotion and his dedication.
You know, there's a lot of people that think that that maybe it's a little over the top, this farewell tour, and it's probably bigger than Derek thought it would be, but I don't think we'll ever see anything like this again.
No, unfortunately, when someone plays the game and conducts his life the way Derek has and continues to, it's unusual.
Right.
And I hate to say that because, you know, we glorify so many bad things in our society anymore that we really highlight mischievous stuff. And to watch him do what he's done all these years in this city as a single man.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't crave attention, and I think that's a big part of it in this town.
And one of the big reasons we have here tonight, Charles and Dorothy Jeter.
Oh, that's the reasons. I know when it was Derek's day out here, and I saw his parents. I saw them earlier this evening, and I said, I said hello to them. And Charles says to me, he says, "Thanks for taking care of Derek." I said, "Thank you for doing what you did. It was easy to take care of Derek."
There's so many reasons beyond, we were saying this earlier, beyond his objective achievements, and they're more than enough to get him to the Hall of Fame. But the combination of factors, wearing the pinstripes, coinciding with an era where the team returned to glory and was constantly playing in October, doing even better in big games than he did generally in the regular season, hit over 410 different postseason series, was nearly a 500 hitter in the All-Star game, playing with one team at a time when players tend to jump around, so there's that stability, that constant presence, and then something that can't be quantified, but just the classic look of him. He looks as if he would fit in any era. The elegance, the style without histrionics, all those things elevate him beyond the mere numbers. Pierce had to elevate to pull that one down, but gets back down on the bag for the second out.
Yeah, he's very special, but you hit it on the nose. You know, when you say he plays big in big games, pretty good chance if he's the last hitter in the ball game or with 2 out in the 9th inning, that it was going to be a tough guy for the pitcher to get out, or he hit a line drive somewhere, or just something. There have been times, and I haven't shared this, but he'd walk by me. He says, "I got him, Mr. T." and you know, just to say, yeah, I know we lost a couple of games in a row, but you know, we'll be all right. And one of those games was what was it, Game 4 of the World Series in 2000.
Wow.
He takes the first pitch, hits a home run at Shea Stadium, and we're off and running.
That's what I like about poking holes in the sabermetricians, because you look at the numbers and it's when you achieve the numbers.
Yeah.
And nobody achieved them at better times than he did.
Gardner singled and scored in the first. This one will make the seats. You mentioned that game at Shea. You had won the first 2 games here at Yankee Stadium. Then they got back into the series by winning Game 3. You hit Jeter leadoff against Bobby Jones, who took the first pitch of the game out of the park and kind of took all the momentum away from the Mets.
It really did. And, you know, short series, Kitty, that momentum changes so quickly.
Oh, yeah.
And that certainly got it back on our side.
Yeah, he made reference to that in the great Sports Illustrated issue, of which our Tom Verducci wrote a couple of articles. He said, I'd have had to leave town if we'd lost that World Series.
Oh, tell me about it. You go to the dry cleaners, you know, and people are telling you what to do.
2-2 to Gardner. When you throw as hard as Gausman, that changeup will really twist you into knots if you're at the plate.
It's the best way to pitch today. Sliders go a long ways. Fastball, changeup, best combination of pitches you can have.
Yeah, if you look at the press guide, it used to be if you struck out a lot in the minor leagues, you had a fastball. Now it's an off pitch.
Yeah. Well, we were watching Derek in that at bat, and you were such a great hitter with 2 strikes, the pitcher had to jam you.
Right.
Now guys just bail and wail, and Derek's an example of that. He has a 2-strike approach.
He really, you know, he hits most of the balls to right field, which means he stays inside, and that you're not going to trick him as much as the guys who, as you say, bail and wail.
Gausman approaching 50 pitches, and Gardner making him work. We're just in the 2nd inning.
That's for those that are into pitch counts, that's a little over 3 innings worth in a normal game.
And another 2-2 pitch. And another foul ball.
And another thing, just how much he enjoyed playing the game. You know, Georgie Posada wasn't necessarily a great base runner.
Right.
You know, he always thought fast, but he didn't run fast.
Yeah.
And you know, and Georgie would get thrown out at second or thrown out at third, and you know, I'd be mad, and I'd look. Jeter would look. He'd stick his head out and look down at me and start smiling.
Gardner slaps one to the left side. Paredes has it, and another high throw, and Gardner is safe. It's an epidemic tonight.
Everybody's all pumped up for Jeter night here tonight.
Number 2, Derek Jeter. Number 2.
You talk about a guy who appeals to all demographics. He comes to the plate serenaded by Bob Shepard and Eminem. It's the full spectrum.
I mean, look around the stadium. Everybody's on their feet. That to me it gets goosebumps. I tell you that.
E5 on the last one. 3 errors in the game, 2 for the Orioles, and the Yankee miscue was committed by Jeter. But in his only at-bat, he doubled off the bullpen fence and left, and that brought Gardner home in the first. In for a strike. Have you seen any difference in his approach? Obviously at 40 he's not the hitter that he once was, but any difference at all in his swing, his approach?
You know, a couple of years ago when he tried to change something early, and they were talking about, you know, writing him off early, and then that was the year he got the 3,000th hit. That second half was amazing. I think he tried to do something different to, you know, maybe to make up for the age.
Jammed him, and on the ground is short. Hardy shovels it over to Johnson, and the force play ends the inning. So Jeter's 1 for 2. The game remains tied at 2. Thank you, Joe.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Hall of Famer Joe Torre joining us, and we're back to the Bronx after this. The postseason begins next week with the AL wildcard game Tuesday on TBS. Then the next night, the NL wildcard game on ESPN. The 2014 postseason starting next week. Hiroki Kuroda will face Nick Markakis, who began the game by taking him deep for his 14th home run of the season. We're in the third, tied at 2. Kuroda is 39 years old. He's a free agent after this season. He could opt to retire. Some speculation that he might return to Japan. He pitched for many years for the Hiroshima Carp before joining the Dodgers in 08.
Hasn't shown any signs of slowing down, so depending on the price tag, there's certainly some teams I think that would like to have him. Maybe even the Yankees.
Two and 1 to Markakis. Alejandro Diaza, who also homered in the first, waits on deck. No shift from Markakis. Infield more or less straight away. He slices one down the left field line. Chris Young has no play.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if the Orioles and the Tigers hook up in the postseason because of both the hitting ability. Both these teams have home run power, guys with a lot of RBIs, and you pointed out earlier for Buck Showalter, Markakis going to the postseason for the first time in his career.
Showalter has already said that his Game 1 starter in the division series, regardless of opponent, will be Chris Tillman. I asked him about his Game 2 starter. He said, I think I know, but I'm not going to say, and it could, the underline could, depend on who the opponent is. Tillman pitches tomorrow night in Toronto. He'll be well rested when the division series starts on Thursday in Baltimore. And a called third strike. Let's check with Tom Verducci, who's roaming around Yankee Stadium.
And I'm here with one of the core four, Andy Pettitte, of course. I'm sure you can't believe first time up in his last home game, Derek almost hits one out of the ballpark, a two-base hit.
Unbelievable. I mean, you expect that out of him. I can't believe he got out his last at-bat, but I'm sure he's going to have a great night. And it's incredible what he's able to do. In the big moments, kids throwing like 97 miles an hour, and he almost hits one out to the deepest part of the ballpark here.
Well, Andy, oftentimes at the ending, here his last home game in New York, we think about the beginnings. For you, Derek Jeter, tell me about the first time you met him.
That was in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I think he walked right up to me and goes, "Man, you look like one of my uncles." You know, the first time I met him, and then obviously his first game there, he actually made a couple of errors. He was pitching his first game. I was pitching and made a couple of errors in that game, and he did hit a home run that night. So, look, you knew that he was going to be special from the moment we saw him. He's just a great teammate. He hasn't changed one bit, and it's just been really fun to watch him.
Well, take us inside, Derek, as a teammate. You are, of course, known for your intensity, seriousness. How about Derek Jeter? Take us into the clubhouse, maybe pregame, what his routine is like.
Derek's very relaxed, you know, and obviously he doesn't show a whole lot of emotion, but it's burning, you know, it's burning on the inside. Whenever the camera gets on him or you see him sitting there, you can tell that he has a desire to win like no other. And but he's just been a great leader. He's not very outspoken. He doesn't sit there and scream and shout and throw stuff all over the place, but he leads by example, and he goes out there, he takes the field every day, he plays the game the right way, plays hard, and as a teammate, man, you just appreciate that. He's out there whether he's feeling 100% or whether he's feeling 50%. And to be a great leader, you got to do that, and he's done that throughout his entire career.
Now, we see him on the field looking cool, calm, and collected all the time. You were just telling me about even before games. It's pretty funny. Yeah, he is. I mean, you know, people ask me, what are you going to miss? What's your favorite moment about Derek? And for me, it's the stuff that goes on, you know, before the game, during the game. I mean, before every game, we had a little routine where he'd like, you know, don't be afraid today. You scared, you know, and ask me questions like that. And I mean, it was almost like it was just our little routine together, or just coming by me on the mound after maybe if he gets out or something like that and he's mad, and he'll just hit me as he's jogging out to shortstop and stuff. So just those little things that bond ball players, and it might be corny to other people, but those are the things that I'll remember, and obviously a lot of other stuff that comes along with it. But when we take that field, those are kind of the things that I think about, and it's just been cool for me to be a part of it and to be able to watch these great Hall of Fame players like Mariano last year and Derek himself this year, that I can say, man, I played with those guys. Well, it was only 1 year ago we saw that great moment, Mariano's last game here, where you and Derek went out to the mound, and we saw Mariano really caught off guard, and we saw the emotion. Mariano really almost driven to tears at that moment. We've not seen Derek very emotional on the field. Do you think we will see that tonight? I'm not sure. I think he may get a little emotional. I mean, it's pretty hard to control it, and with a crowd this size and how overwhelming, and the love that he's going to be poured out on him. So we may see it. I mean, Mariano, that was awesome. I'm so glad I was able to be part of that scene last year. Andy Pettit, Mariano Rivera, Jorge Posada, and Derek Jeter, forever linked. Thanks, Andy. You bet.
Thanks, Tom. Alejandro Diaza at first. He's 2 for 2. Followed his first inning homer with a single here in the third. And a bouncer toward the middle. Jeter flags it down. A flip to second for the force. And they can't quite turn it, but a nice play by Jeter.
Might see a review. And Joe Girardi calmly walks out. Another look at it. Great reach to the glove side. Accurate flip.
The flip to Drew for the force. And now they may, in fact, be checking on this one. And as they do, Andy Pettit mentioned Derek Jeter's sense of humor, something the public doesn't often see. And let's see for ourselves here whether Adam Jones beat it or not. Tough to tell from that angle. Very, very close. Called safe by Brian Onora. Girardi may be right.
Yeah.
He may be right.
Well, what Andy talked about there, and that is so typical when you get out of the game. The things you miss are the little kidding around and the bonding between players in the clubhouse.
The instant replay review was presented by Samsung. So anyway, I'm thinking about the turn Jeter did on Saturday Night Live several years ago, and he was just terrific. Stephen Drew trying to turn it here. And recently he was on with Jimmy Fallon, and again, so naturally humorous, so relaxed. Just mentioned Jimmy Fallon. He's 40 and viewed as a fresh young face with many years ahead of him as the host of the Tonight Show. For a ball player, it's not the same.
No.
When you're 40, you're a wise old head and you've reached the end of the road. When you're 40 in most other walks of life, you're just getting started. The review went the way of Girardi and the Yankees, and in fact it's a double play, and that puts an end to the top of the third. Tied at 2. The weather cooperating. Back after this.
Here's the kid, Derek Jeter, hunting for his first major league hit, and sends a base hit into left, and they'll put that ball back in the Yankee dugout. Derek Jeter, after going 0 for 6, finally has his first major league hit.
And it came off Tim Belcher, then with the Mariners, first major league homer early the next season, his first full season, off a pretty good right-hander, Dennis Martinez.
And that call by the late, great Hall of Fame announcer, Dave Niehaus of the Mariners.
Brian McCann reached on an error his first time up. Number 2 banners all along the facade, sweeping around Yankee Stadium from right field to left. I spoke with Buck Showalter between innings, who briefly managed Derek Jeter. You'll hear that in a minute. McCann, Teixeira, and Headley for the Yankees in the 3rd.
No bearing on this game, but I just see at the scoreboard the Milwaukee Brewers have now been officially eliminated. What a sad story that is.
Boy, the trapdoor opened on them after a terrific start. Buck Showalter's team has won its first division title since 1997. They made the playoffs a couple of years ago as a wild card before losing the division series to the Yankees. They had a winning record against every team in the division in an overall down year for the American League East. Lifted into shallow left. Hardy goes back from short, and coming in from left is Diaza, and it's Diaza who takes it. And Showalter's team, playing its 19th and final game head-to-head against the Yankees this year, has won 13 of the first 18. We talked to him about Derek Jeter between innings, beginning with the story of how it was Showalter who said, yeah, give the kid number 2 back in 1995.
Yeah, I wish he'd taken the day off so far, but you know he's not going to cooperate. But you know, there's certain times where you realize what an honor it is to be up here and have a good seat to see this. And you know, I'd like, you know, everybody in Baltimore wishes him well, but we're glad he's retiring. All right.
As the story goes, you're the guy who, as his manager for 15 games in 1995, said, yeah, give him number 2. Did you really see something in him?
No, we had a lot of help with that one. You know, there's not a whole lot of numbers left. You know, they're losing a lot of them, but. And that was pretty easy. Nick Peoria and Gene Michael, you know, I remember him saying, giving Bernie Williams 51, it's good enough for Willie McGee, it's good enough for you. But Nick had a real affinity for, you know, being very protective of those numbers. And he asked me what I thought about him as a player. And that didn't take Johnny Super Scout to figure out Derek had a chance to be a really good player.
Thanks, Buck.
Okay, guys, thank you.
With Teixeira at the plate, look where Kelly Johnson is. There are shifts and then there are shifts.
Wow.
Johnson is in shallow right field. The right fielder Markakis is actually pretty well off the line. And Teixeira, who's just having a devil of a time, strikes out for the second time
tonight.
And
that's why there's no adjustment. We talked to Joe Torre when he was up here about how Derek stays inside the ball, has a 2-strike approach, but I think next year we're going to begin to see left-hand hitters, instead of that front shoulder pull off, try to poke it to left field and see if you can't do something against these shifts.
Headley hit into a force his first time up. You know, as Teixeira walks away wearing number 25, earlier we saw a guy who caught the Diaza home run ball wearing number 25 in the stands. And it occurs to me that you always lock in to what you focused on when you were a kid. Sure. So when I was a kid, the Yankees 25 was Joe Pepitone.
Right.
I'm thinking that guy is wearing 25 not as an homage to Pepe, but probably because in the present day he's a Teixeira fan.
Yeah, correct.
And too many number 2s all around this ballpark to count.
Yeah, I think Tom Verducci, with so much information for us, will tell us about how popular that number 2 jersey is.
Top seller in all of baseball 6 of the last 7 years. The only exception last year when he basically didn't play.
Pensive.
Trying to stay focused on this game, but difficult not to flash back to all the other games and the big nights and days here in the Bronx. He wouldn't be human.
No.
If he wasn't partly in the past and partly in the present tonight. Still 3-2, and Gausman, working in the third, is approaching 70 pitches. Another 3-2 pitch, and he walked him.
Yeah, I think what you're seeing tonight, just to get on the pitching subject, is a guy with a live arm, 96, 95 miles an hour, and yet he's trying to nibble and hit corners when his natural stuff just somewhere in the strike zone would probably be a lot better for him.
Ball players are known to have any number of quirks. Here's an interesting one. It's well documented that Kevin Gausman has to have one Hostess powdered donut before every start. He eats one before he takes the mound, then he eats 4 more between innings.
Wow.
As long as he's in the game. They're little bite-sized powdered donuts, and they have to be Hostess powdered donuts. They're getting a free commercial here, and he's been doing that since the 7th grade. Now, you can burn off enough calories when you're a young man and an active athlete, but think of the glycemic index between the first inning and however long he lasts.
Wouldn't you think of sunflower seeds or something else? But
looks like he's spitting some sunflower seeds right now, so he may be operating on multiple tracks here. But the powdered donuts are his signature. Pierce holding Headley on at first. 0-2 the count to Chris Young, who had an infield hit his first time up. Slow roller, Hardy. Got him. So the Yankees leave 1, and after 3, it's still tied at 2 as we go back to our MLB Network studio to check in with Sam Ryan. Sam. Welcome back to the MLB Network Showcase presented by Chevrolet with Jim Cott and Tom Verducci. And for this inning, Harold Reynolds, Bob Costas at Yankee Stadium. Nelson Cruz, who leads the majors with 40 home runs, faces Kuroda and takes a strike. So, people may not realize this, but you, Harold, who has the cell phone number of virtually every active major leaguer and most retired major leaguers, are pretty tight with Derek Jeter.
Yeah, you know, it goes back to 1996. His rookie year, he wanted to start a foundation, and he said, hey, can you come to Kalamazoo, Michigan, and do a baseball clinic? I said, yeah, sure, no problem. Snow everywhere.
I grew up around there, I know.
Oh, my gosh. But ever since then, you know, and it's not just Derek, it was the family more so than anything else. And if you get to know him, he's got a real close-knit group of friends. And I'm fortunate to meet him young and get to know him.
And down goes Cruz, flailing at that offering from Kuroda.
That's very cool. And you and I got the memo. We wore purple ties tonight because purple is a color of royalty, and we're celebrating baseball royalty.
But he's Bob Costas.
I apparently did not get. I have some purple in the closet.
Yeah, it's close.
It's not close. This is blue.
Well,
if only I'd known.
Yeah.
I had the option.
That's got to be cool, though, to start a friendship like that, and how the guys turned out 18 years later after you met him.
You know what? He's always been the same, consistent, solid. And the thing I love about him is what you see is what you get. There's no turn it on, turn it off with Derek. It's just him. And you know what's cool about this game for me is you two in the booth, because it takes me back to, you know, back to the early days. Jim was doing Yankee games, you were doing games of the week and everything else, and Derek was just a youngster hitting postseason play.
Bouncing ball left side, Headley on the short hop. throws Pierce out.
See, that was a backhand compliment. You guys.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm long since past the point where I'm used to people saying, I grew up watching you.
Yeah.
I remember when I was an irreverent newcomer, and now it's like, hey, how much longer are you going to do this?
Yeah, well, wait till a few more years and you'll hear, you were one of my grandmother's favorite pitchers.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I never played. Now after the other day here in New York, I'm just Derek's friend.
Yeah.
You know, that's all. It's all good. Whatever.
Yeah, they introduced you on Derek Jeter Day when they had the ceremony on September 7th, and I thought your ovation was only slightly short of that accorded to Michael Jordan.
Yeah, exactly. I got to give the backstory on that, too. I get a memo about 3 weeks earlier and said, hey, you're going to go on the field with the family. I'm thinking, no big deal. All right, cool. We'll go down there. And I've been to ceremonies in Seattle, and they have like 50-some people on the field or whatnot. And the next thing you know, they say, hey, get in the dugout. They announce Rob Manfred, commissioner-elect, and then they go, Harold Reynolds. And not only do they just say Harold Reynolds, they say he was a friend of Derek, although he didn't play for the Yankees. I'm like, what am I doing here?
2 strikeouts in the inning. Hardy goes down looking. 4 overall for Kuroda, who has settled in nicely after the first 2 hitters touched him for home runs. Harold's going to stick with us. If the Yankees get a couple of men on, Jeter will bat in the bottom half of the 4th.
Jacob Welch, United States Army. I've been a Yankee fan my entire life, and I've never seen a greater Yankee than Derek Jeter. From timely home runs to clutch defensive plays, the captain can do it all. There'll never be another player quite like number 2. Thanks for all the memories, Derek. We'll see you in Cooperstown soon.
So, USAA salutes Sergeant First Class Jacob Welch. He's a native of Eureka, California, but says he's been a Yankee fan all his life, and in the Bronx for Derek Jeter's final home game. A game that was in serious jeopardy all day long. It looked like less than 50-50 that they get this game in, and certainly less than 50-50 that they get it in without interruption. But no rain has fallen since about a half hour before the game, and none during the game. And we move to the bottom of the 4th, bottom of the order for the Yankees, Drew, Ichiro, and Pirella.
You know what's funny, Bob, is I saw Derek before the game, did the interview this afternoon, and you know, it was supposed to be, at that time it was 95% it's going to rain, and he's like, it hasn't rained all day, we're playing tonight, and he had his game face on at 4 o'clock.
What was he talking about? Hasn't rained all day. It rained most of the day.
Wherever he's at, there's no rain.
You know what? That's right.
Derek Jeter.
Rain does not fall on Derek Jeter. He needs no umbrella. But he moves through life sort of on a path of his own.
He does, man. He's had a good life. There's no doubt about it.
And I want to point this out when Harold said, you know, Derek's friend, but he didn't play. This guy played a dozen years and won 3 Gold Gloves. So he knows a little bit about infield play.
Yeah.
And yet the first notation on his resume is good buddy of Derek Jeter.
That's all right. That's not a bad one. I guess I'll take it.
1-2 to Stephen Drew.
But it has to please you to watch the way Derek has played one of those middle infield positions.
He's great. You know, the big thing is if he catches the ball, you're probably out. And to make the play that he charges on, and he threw one away earlier, came back, got the next one. I don't think I've seen anybody make the play the way he makes that play.
Buck Showalter had a term for it to us down as glove awareness. You know, I've never heard that before, but you know, he has the awareness to turn the glove over, field it in the pocket of the glove instead of backhand, and nice soft hands, nice soft transfer.
So to tell you the focus of Derek, real quick after we see Stephen Drew.
Full count.
All right. I go into the suite to see the family, say hi to the parents tonight, first, second inning. And after he doubled, you know, everybody's excited, and they were down still 2-1 at the time. He drove in 1, he's still at second base, so it's tied. And I get up there about a little bit after the second inning. I'll sit down with his grandmother, and
in the air to left, easy chance for Diaza. 1 out.
And I say to her, I go, man, we almost got one out of here. She goes, yeah, I sure hope we win this game. You know, we got to stay focused and win this game.
Right.
And
that's what Grandma says?
That's what she says.
Grandma Dorothy Collins?
Yes. So I'm sitting there going, I know where he gets it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's pretty cool.
The other thing I know you tried to get him to say is, what about Boston? And he said, no, I don't look that far ahead.
He doesn't. You know, it's a crystal focus of the day before. You know, I've been around him a lot, and regular season game. This is a regular season game. He looked like it was a postseason game. He had that laser sharp. I think he plays this weekend in Boston. That's just me, but hey, if he hits a grand slam tonight and leaves the house, or well.
Jay-Z somehow able to score tickets for tonight's game.
How he did that?
No idea. By the way, I walked into the Yankee clubhouse, and one of Ichiro's confidants, a young guy named Brad Lefton, American-born, but spent a lot of time in Japan, speaks fluent Japanese. You see him around the ballpark all the time. He said to me, "Oh, you're here for Ichiro's last game at Yankee Stadium." And you're really looking at one of the all-time greats. He won 7 batting titles in Japan. He has better than 2,800 career hits in the majors. If you take his hits in Japan and his hits here in the States and combine them, it's better than 4,000. He's about 130 or 140 behind Pete Rose, and it wouldn't count anyway because you can't trade them 1 for 1. But it gives you an idea of what kind of baseball career this guy has had, and he nearly beats that. Wow. But they nip him at first.
Wow. Could still run and still field.
Yeah, if he hits the front of the base, I think he might be safe. It looked like he got right in the middle of the base on that one. But man, Bob, you're absolutely right. I mean, we forget about how great Ichiro was in his days in Seattle. He was the franchise at the time.
And he played unlike anyone else in the major leagues at that time. It was the height or depth of the steroid era. It seemed like every game was 9-7 or 10-8, bludgeon ball. And here's a guy playing in a style that turn-of-the-century players would have recognized.
Ooh, I don't know. What do you think, Jim?
It's amazing how you look at those 2-3 times and get a little different perspective. Real quickly before the next out, we talked about numbers earlier, and I think Ichiro, when I first saw him in Seattle, I said, "You're wearing number 51."
Yeah.
He said, "Yeah, Bernie Williams. I watched Bernie Williams play a lot when I was over in Japan. That's why he wore the number 51 in Seattle."
And I was going, "You're wearing Randy Johnson's uniform. What are they giving it to this guy for?" Now it's Ichiro's number.
By the way, Pete Rose's name comes up. It's really striking when you look at Derek Jeter's numbers through a comparable number of games. They're virtually identical to Pete Rose, virtually the same number of hits, lifetime batting average. Rose is 311 and Jeter is 310. And then you're impressed by what Rose did after that. He played about 800 more games after that and got nearly 800 more hits.
Amazing.
42.56 is nearly as unreachable as Cy Young's 511.
No doubt about it. This was the guy that probably would have came the closest. But he's not going to get there. But what a career he's had.
Through the same number of games, he's neck and neck with Pete. But he's done, and Pete kept on going. Got his last hit at age 45.
And I'm done at 53. I'll see you later.
Thanks, Harold.
Thank you, Harold.
All right.
This MLB Network Showcase is brought to you by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. And sponsored in part by the U.S. Postal Service. Race to get your new hot rod stamps now at USPS.com. And by Delta. Keep climbing. Johnson, Paredes, and Joseph, the 7, 8, and 9 hitters in the top of the 5th for the Orioles. And that's foul.
Boy, that's some defensive alignment. There's Derek Jeter at third base. So they're giving away the entire left center part of the field, both infield and outfield. Now he's shifting over a little bit.
Moving back toward the shortstop position with the count now at 1-1. They never shift Jeter to the right side. If you followed the Yankees during this period of time when shifts are all in vogue, they may move him around. He may be closer to third base, but he is always on the shortstop side of second base. And it's the third baseman, in this case Headley, who moves over to the right side when they shift. A number of teams do it that way for the most part. The Yankees do it that way when Jeter is on the field 100% of the time. Strikeout number 5, and 3 of the last 4 hitters Corona has faced have fanned. We check again with Tom Verducci.
Well, guys, listening to Andy Pettitte talk about Derek Jeter's leadership really took me back to when I first noticed it. I actually have to go back to when he was not even an active player. It was the 1995 American League Division Series. And Buck Showalter, the manager then, had Jeter dress for that series, although he was not on the active roster, as a 21-year-old rookie. And if you call that game, that was the deciding game of that series against Seattle with David Cone on the mound. And David Cone threw 147 pitches in this game, and this is after he threw 135 pitches in his first start in this series. Obviously spent walking off the mound. You can see number 2 is the first player off the bench. Now, normally, you guys know this, Jim. A 21-year-old rookie, not even on the active roster. You usually find him at the end of the bench eating sunflower seeds.
Boy,
and that showed me he always, right from the beginning, had a knack for doing the right thing, saying the right thing at the right time.
Willie Randolph, then a Yankee coach, was the first to greet him, but as Tom said, the first active player was Jeter.
I did that game with Brent Musburger, the Baseball Network, and boy, Coney, that was some effort. Ended up walking Doug Strange on a full count. The Yankees had that game won a few times, and then of course the Edgar Martinez double off Jack McDowell.
And it's funny, guys, when I asked Derek if he's ever been nervous, he said, sure, I get nervous, I just don't show it. But he said during that series, he was nervous the entire time. Why? Because he couldn't play. He had to watch.
Slow roller. Charging is Drew, and he gets it.
Nice. For a guy that plays a lot of shortstop, I mean, it's footwork, agility, soft hands to be able to make that kind of a transfer. Some players would try it with the bare hand, but if the ball's moving, the rule is always use your glove. Transfers it to the throwing hand, gets him.
After sitting out the beginning of the season when he couldn't reach terms with the Red Sox, then going down to the minors to tune up, and then coming back to the Red Sox, now eventually with the Yankees, Drew has still been good with the glove at both short and second base, but he cannot find his swing. He's hitting well beneath 200. Here's Joseph, grounded out his first time up. So Derek Jeter concedes that as a very young man in 1995, he was nervous during the division series.
Well, that's
and now you can tell he's nervous tonight.
Yeah. It's typical of players. You're more nervous when you're not playing than when you are.
Shallow right field, Ichiro and Teixeira. Teixeira dives in foul territory and can't get there.
Like Tom mentioned, the thing that made Derek nervous is he couldn't play. He couldn't do anything about it, and yet he wanted his team to win. Nice effort by Teixeira.
Tremendous effort. You know, he's had an injury-plagued season. His production is way down from his prime. The game doesn't mean much for the Yankees except as a showcase for Derek Jeter. But there's an all-out professional effort from Teixeira. Since the homers by Markakis and Diaz to begin the game, Corona has allowed only 1 hit. And he struck out 5. In 30 of his 31 starts this year, prior to tonight, he's given up 4 or fewer runs. So generally speaking, he's kept his team in the game. His record is 11-9. And Adam Hamari punches Caleb Joseph out. 2 more strikeouts in this inning for Corona. 6 overall. Jeter will be coming up in the bottom half. Derek Jeter will bat second in the bottom half of the 5th. The Yankees, as most of you know by now, finish in Boston. When you looked at the schedule at the beginning of the year, that looked like a series that might be tremendously meaningful. Now, for the first time since 1993, neither the Red Sox nor the Yankees will make it to October. Gardner has singled and reached on an error.
Yeah, I thought of this question, and I guess there's a reason they couldn't do anything about it, but Derek announced his retirement in February. The schedule's already out, but I wonder how difficult it would have been to just flip-flop 2 series and have the Red Sox finish in Yankee Stadium.
You know, they're always looking for showcases.
Yeah.
That was a missed opportunity for baseball. Then you wouldn't have to talk about, well, will he play in Boston, whatever. Let it end here.
I mean, I think there'd have been enough advance notice to, to have tickets, have fans say, hey, the series is now going to be in Boston on such and such a day.
Oh, captain, my captain. Whether the person with the placard realizes it or not, they're quoting from Walt Whitman, but let's not get carried away. Walt Whitman's poem was in the aftermath of the assassination of Abraham Lincoln.
Ooh,
Derek Jeter
us a little history lesson.
Yes,
here.
Derek Jeter lives on.
Right.
Anything can be overdone. As Jeter comes to the plate following Gardner's at bat, I'm going to let you savor once again Bob Shepard. Through all the years, every kid I knew who grew up in New York did their own imitation.
Not only New York, I did it in Michigan once I heard Bob Shepard.
Number 7, Mickey Mantle.
Yeah.
Two and 2 to Gardner, who began the night at 255. '23-year-old Kevin Gausman hooked up in a 2-2 game with 39-year-old Hiroki Kuroda. And Gardner strikes out.
For the Yankees, number 2, Derek Jeter. Number 2.
Nobody at the concession stands right now. Flash bulbs and cell phone cameras popping all around the ballpark in the Bronx. And just about everybody on their feet, except in a suite where you have a comfortable seat and nobody blocking your view. Hit hard but foul. Talked to Joe Girardi earlier, and we noted how he orchestrated Mariano Rivera's last game at Yankee Stadium perfectly, but different with a pitcher. He had Pettit and Jeter come out and in effect take Mariano out of the game, and it was a very moving and perfectly crafted scene. More difficult to do with a position player. I asked Girardi how he'd like to have it end. He said, with a walk-off winning base hit for Derek. But you wonder, let's say, if in his next time at bat, Jeter gets a hit, is that the moment to take him out for a pinch runner? Or do you let him go to the field and then come off? Or do you just simply let him play the whole game? We'll see. Had a long double his first time up. Hit into a forced play his second time. And strikes out this time. Hey, I got a shot at Derek Jeter, he says to his buddy. I can tell my friends that that was when he hit the double. They don't have to know he struck out that time. Fifth strikeout of the night for Gausman. McCann has reached on an error and flied out. And now you look around the ballpark and the aisles are filled. Restroom trip? Need a hot dog or another beer? Not while Jeter's at the plate. But we can miss this fly out to center from Brian McCann, which ends a 1-2-3 last of the fifth. Each team scored twice in the first. It hasn't changed since then on Derek Jeter's final night as an active player in the Bronx.
1-2. He loops that to left field. Going to be a tough play. Jeter on the run, makes the play, and flies into the stands. Oh, what a play by Derek Jeter. Wow, Jeter really banged himself up.
I think he caught you could see the redness in his face. He caught the bar of that box. What a play.
Spectacular play made all the more memorable because it occurred in extra innings of a marathon game against the Red Sox, who would eventually later that year come back from a 3-0 deficit and win the LCS against the Yanks. You put that one in the book along with the flip play against the A's, the Jeffrey Mayer assisted home run against the Orioles in '96, the Mr. November home run in 2001 in the World Series against the Diamondbacks, the World Series home run in 2000 at Shea Stadium to open Game 4.
Yeah, that game for me was the one that really stands out, where he dove in the stands. John Flaherty, who works on the Yes Network now and later became or was a teammate of Derek's, former Red Sox, got the winning hit in that game. Interesting to listen to the comments from Derek's former teammates between innings on recordings, and all of them talk about what a great leader he was, even as a young player.
Markakis lines one to left. Young is there for the catch, so Nick is now 1 for 3. And here's a conversation we had between innings with Joe Girardi, starting with the idea that while this night for virtually everybody here is all about Derek Jeter, as a true baseball man, Girardi realizes that it means something to the Orioles.
Well, I mean, we're going to play the game the right way, and we're going to do everything we can to win this game because we owe that to baseball and the playoffs that are coming up. But obviously, Derek is the focus, and I think you see it every time he comes up.
You know, Joe, watching the pregame, we've got a camera on him, and as relaxed a player as he's been, he's pretty tense in that dugout before the game, and that's understandable.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit emotional because, I mean, Kitty, you know, this has been such a big part of his life, your life, my life, and when you take that uniform off, it's very difficult, and I think he's starting to understand that, and he's going to miss it.
Last year with Mariano Rivera, you were able to orchestrate it perfectly, but it's different for a pitcher. So you have Pettit and Jeter go out and in effect remove him from the game. It's a wonderful scene. You can't be guaranteed to have a perfect scenario like that with a position player.
No, I would love for him to have a walk-off hit. I mean, that would be a great way to end this at home for him. But no, it is hard to orchestrate, and we'll just let the night play out.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Wes.
Diaz, who has had a big night, tags one again, but Ichiro is able to clutch it on the warning track. So Diaz is now 2 for 3.
Well, the way these pitchers have settled down, Joe Girardi might get his wish. 2-2 tie. Derek due to come up again late in the game. Wouldn't necessarily be a walk-off, but it could be a game winner.
Adam Jones to the plate. He's grounded out twice. Unless he has a big weekend in Toronto, he'll come up just short of 100 RBIs. And here's a sky-high pop into foul territory. In from third is Headley to make the catch. And another 1-2-3 inning for Kuroda, who is now retired 10 in a row. Non-stop action, heart-pounding excitement, historic performances. Don't miss the 2014 postseason beginning Tuesday, September 30th, with the wild card games. TJ McFarland, 25-year-old left-hander, replaces Kevin Gausman, who threw 97 pitches, 35 of them in a rough first inning in which the Yankees scored twice. Gausman's line, 5 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 runs, both earned. He walked 1 and he struck out 5. It'll be a no decision for him, so he'll remain winless since August 17th. Even though through most of that stretch, he's pitched pretty well.
Yeah, looking at that Baltimore bullpen, they're unique in that they have several starters near the end. Zach Britton, their closer, Tommy Hunter, that have really been starters. So they're starters converted to relievers, not just those 1-inning specialty pitch guys. They're capable of pitching a couple innings with a variety of pitches.
Teixeira struck out twice left-handed against Gausman. To the right side against McFarland, who's 4-2 with an ERA of 2.83. Teixeira, Headley, and Young in the New York 6th.
Bob, when you start to look at postseason matchups, the one team that doesn't jump out at you with #1 starters, of course, no team has one like Clayton Kershaw, but the Orioles. But what Buck Showalter does have, if they get to the latter part of the game, maybe one of the better bullpens in baseball.
Very deep and versatile bullpen. Of course, with the rosters expanded, he has 16 pitchers at his disposal tonight, and Joe Girardi has 17. From shortstop, Hardy throws Teixeira out. And we've said this before, and we'll hold the thought until we hear from Sam Ryan in the studio. Sam. Sam, thanks. If the standings hold as they presently are, the Tigers will play the Orioles in the division series, and the wild card winner will play the Angels.
Seattle a winner. They're still barely alive.
Headley is grounded out and walked. So anyway, we're talking about the expanded rosters. Almost everyone you talk to in baseball says this is a simple fix to one of the dumbest rules in all the sports. Why should you play pennant race games under entirely different circumstances than the bulk of the season? We have multiple pinch runners, a zillion relief pitchers. Makes no sense. You want to expand the roster? Go ahead. But just like in hockey, designate a certain number who will suit up and be eligible for any given game, and then play baseball as it's normally played.
You know, Buck Showalter went so far as to say the year that Terry Francona was relieved of his duties as the manager of the Red Sox that he had so many extra weapons to combat the Red Sox lineup with, and without the September call-ups they wouldn't have been able to do that, and they ended up knocking the Red Sox out of the postseason play.
There wasn't a shift on there against Headley as he batted right-handed, but Kelly Johnson, the second baseman, was tucked almost behind the bag, and that positioning worked perfectly on what otherwise might have been a base hit.
And fans out there not familiar with the rules, after September 1, you have a 40-man roster. You can call numerous guys up from the minor leagues, and they're all eligible to play. And just about everybody around baseball that's concerned about the game says, wait, just make 27 or 28 players a day eligible. And of course, as Buck says, it's the Players Association, and they want service time for the players. Well, give the players service time and put them on the inactive roster for that day anyway.
It's an easy and obvious fix. Can be #1 on Rob Manfred's to-do list. It's not the most important thing, but it's the most easily corrected thing I can think of.
And Buck's comment today tells you it has affected pennant races.
You know what's even worse? If you get a tie for a division title or for the last wild card spot, and you have to play a one-game playoff, that counts as a regular season game, and then you're playing that game, which can determine someone's fate for the postseason under these crazy rules. It happened with Minnesota and Detroit a few years ago.
I think it'll come up in a more serious discussion at this year's winter meetings. I hope so.
A shift on Chris Young. You tend to see it more against left-handed batters than right, but the Orioles employ shifts about as often as just about any team in the majors.
Yeah, and there, see, I think hitters, they can begin to adapt to what they're doing. They're playing him to pull, and yet that pitch was on the outside corner. So it's a perfect pitch to take the other way. And instead, Young pulled off the pitch, tried to pull it, and missed it.
So McFarland trying to get through the inning in order, but he'll have to throw at least one more. Full count. McFarland is from nearby Chicago, and last year he made waves at the Team Talent Show for a spot-on Harry Carey impression. Grew up listening to Harry call Cubs games.
We've all done those too, as well as the more elegant voice or eloquent voice of Bob Shepard.
And a called strike 3. So the Yankees go in order in the 6th. Things have really settled down since the 1st, and it remains 2-2. This MLB Network Showcase is presented by Chevrolet. Find new roads, and sponsored in part by Macaroni Grill, where fat breads, not flatbreads, fat breads are on the rise, starting at $7. We like big crust, and they cannot lie. And by Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Everything, even the grounds crew manicuring the infield between innings with a backdrop of YMCA, takes on a certain poignancy, I would guess, tonight for Derek Jeter. What you've done hundreds, if not thousands of times, when you know it's the last time, you kind of put it away in the memory bank. Nelson Cruz will be the only major leaguer to hit 40 home runs this year. Giancarlo Stanton, who's done for the year, has 37. Chris Carter also with 37 over in the National League. When Derek Jeter was Rookie of the Year in '96, 17 players hit 40 home runs or more. That's another thing about Jeter, which elevates him in the public imagination. Played clean during a PED era. Handled himself with grace and style. There was something elegant about everything he did, which again elevates the mere achievement. And the fact that he did it for this team in this ballpark in that uniform during an era when they were constantly in contention. Again, they're intangible things that take his place in the public imagination beyond the mere statistics, and the statistics themselves are impressive enough.
Humility and grace.
Three and one to Cruz.
Two qualities not found in enough athletes today.
Isn't it interesting? In an era when everybody seems to be more into histrionics than true style, here's a guy who had genuine dramatic flair, but never in a way that seemed obnoxious. And when all is said and done, broken bat roller and a chance for Jeter. He has it, pegs accurately into Sherrill, although Mark had to stretch a little bit, and you can tell that he's still got some butterflies, but they record the out.
Not quite that fluid motion there.
But when you think about it, in the end, who are the ones that are most admired? The Mariano Rivera's, the Derek Jeters, guys who weren't just great, but as you said, did it with grace.
Yeah, I'll never forget the words of another look at Derek. Fields it, a little tentative with the throw. We got him.
Look at the exhale.
Yeah.
It's his last big league game in the Bronx, and in a way, he's as nervous as he must have been during his first.
Yeah. Great hockey announcer in Minnesota. I've used this phrase also, and I think of Derek Jeter, Andy Pettitte, Posada, Mariano Rivera, those Yankee teams that were great in those eras. Al Shaver used to close off his nightly sportscast with, this is Al Shaver saying, when you lose, say little, when you win, say less.
Whether Jeter ever listened to Al Shaver, he has lived by that axiom. Pierce has twice grounded to third. Three infielders on the left side. It has been a long goodbye for Derek Jeter because he announced that this would be his final season. So everywhere he went, people realized, visiting ballparks, this might be our last chance. There were tributes and ceremonies everywhere. Same thing with Mariano Rivera a year ago, but since Jeter plays every day, it's been even more in the public consciousness, not just in New York, but all around America. And when you compare it to other great Yankees, there really is a difference, because with most of the others before Rivera and Jeter, you could only guess that it might be their last season. Nothing for sure, and we'll go through that in a minute. That's it for Pierce. He's now 0 for 3, and we'll check with Tom Verducci.
Well, guys, one of the things that have always stood out for me is how well prepared Derek Jeter was to handle what really has been one of the most public baseball lives that we've ever seen. And I go back specifically to when the Yankees won that Subway Series in 2000. And I was walking out of the park with Derek Jeter that night after the clincher, walking through the left field warning track at the old Shea Stadium. And I did a little inventory on his life at that moment.
Here's a drive by J.J. Hardy to deep left, but Young is going to have room at the edge of the track, and we're not going to go away until Tom finishes his story.
And I counted up. He had won 4 championships rings. He was 26 years old. He was dating Miss Universe. He had the world on a string. And the best thing to say about that was that he did not change at all.
And neither did his circumstances. He still has the world on a string. We're going to stay here in the Bronx as they play God Bless America during the 7th inning stretch.
And around the globe. Thank you. Now, please join in Kate Smith's rendition of God Bless America.
Between innings, Jim Cott spotted a banner. A fan said, "My grandfather told me stories about Babe Ruth. I'll tell my grandchildren stories about Derek Jeter," which is part of the beauty of baseball. T.J. McFarland worked a 1-2-3 sixth. There it is.
Very cool. There's some great ones around the stadium tonight. People that have come from Texas.
And you know, part of it, as we said, is beyond mere star status. It's a question of presence. And if you're of a certain age, if you're 30 or younger and a baseball fan, really Derek Jeter represents, if you follow the Yankees, your entire baseball experience. Because prior to that, the Yankees really weren't contenders. His arrival coincides. He wasn't the only one. Torrey and the Core Four and many other contributors. But it coincides with the Yankee Renaissance. If you're of that age group or younger, that's baseball for you. That's the Yankees for you. So when some people have understandably said, look, he's a great player, but he's not even the greatest Yankee, let alone the greatest player of all time, any knowledgeable baseball fan knows that. But the combination of personal qualities, statistical achievements, and the circumstances surrounding him and the era in which he played all elevate him and account for an affection and a respect for him that goes beyond his mere achievements. And here's a long drive to right off the bat of Stephen Drew, and this one is foul in the corner. Doesn't take much to get it out of here at Yankee Stadium. 3:14 down the line.
Yeah, they're saving the walk-off for number 2 next inning. Well, all the things you mentioned about young people their entire career, Derek Jeter is the name they've known. More than half of his life has been a part of the Yankee organization. 23 years.
T.J. McFarland has had 7 consecutive scoreless relief outings dating back to late August. Stephen Drew almost put an end to that, but it faded foul. Drew has twice flied out. Count even at 2-2. That's foul at the plate. And I think what a lot of fans who follow the Yankees will miss, because after all, Derek was in decline as a player, but just the familiar actions and routines. The way he steps into the box, it extends his left arm every single time, touches the top of his batting helmet.
Got little leaguers doing that all over the New York area.
The flip play, the jump throw, Bob shepherding him from the on-deck circle to the plate. All of it. Babe Ruth's last game at Yankee Stadium was in September of 1934. He had one plate appearance. It was a walk. He went 0 for 5 in the Yankees' final homestand, but he played a handful of games with the Boston Braves in 1935, so nobody knew for sure they were seeing Babe Ruth for the last time at Yankee Stadium. Another towering drive, but this one more obviously foul. Lou Gehrig's circumstance, unique. His last game at Yankee Stadium was April 30th, 1939. He went 0 for 4 against the Senators. Then a few days later in Detroit, said to Joe McCarthy, "I can't play anymore," and never played again. That was prior to the diagnosis of ALS, which came to be known as Lou Gehrig's disease. So again, fans had no idea until he addressed them on July 4th of that year and made the luckiest man speech that they had seen the last of Lou Gehrig as a player. It gets away as Drew strikes out, and he's going to make it to first. So the Yankees have the go-ahead run aboard to start the 7th. Joe DiMaggio's last game at Yankee Stadium. A look again. Joseph couldn't hold on to it. We'll wait and see if it's a pass ball or a wild pitch, but in any case, Drew is at first. Joe DiMaggio's last game at Yankee Stadium was Game 6 of the World Series against the Giants in 1951. He had a double in that game. That scored as a pass ball, strikeout and a pass ball. Had a double in that game, but didn't announce his retirement until after the season. Mickey Mantle didn't announce his retirement until spring training of 1969. Ichiro bunts, and Joseph picks it up while it's foul. So Mickey Mantle's last at-bat came on this date, September 25th, 1968. Last at-bat at home. Luis Tiant one-hit the Yankees. Mantle had the only hit on a 1 for 3 night. And you know what the crowd was that night? A little more than 5,000.
Wow.
Then they went to Fenway, just as Jeter will do, and on the same date, September 28th, which would be the last game for the Yankees this year, Mickey had one at-bat and popped to short against Jim Lonborg, and he was hobbling, and they took him out of the game, and that was it. And many people might have suspected that this was the end. After all, he was just a shadow of himself by that time, but there was no official announcement until spring training of 1969.
Great Yankee like Yogi. His last at-bat was a pinch hit line drive to third off my roommate Bill Daly in Minnesota in '63.
But here's a footnote. After managing the Yankees in '64, and then they fired him after he lost the 7th game of the World Series to the Cardinals, he went to the Mets and actually had a few at-bats as a Met in 1965.
I never realized that.
Ichiro's 0 for 2. Paredes in close at third. Another bunt attempt. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Now, Whitey Ford, for example, in contrast to Mariano Rivera, probably the greatest starting pitcher in Yankee history. Tremendous World Series pitcher, high winning percentage. His arm went bad on him during the 1967 season. He just abruptly retired. So only with Yogi and Whitey, 8 and 16. So only with Rivera and Jeter has it been so cut and dry. Number 8 also retired for Bill Dickey, who preceded Yogi Berra as a Hall of Fame catcher with the Yanks. Tonight, 48,613 in attendance, the 16th sellout of the year for the Yankees.
We've seen that pose quite a bit tonight. Our cameraman very accurate in being right on Derek almost every minute. You see him looking down, thinking, pensive, deep breaths.
He's always had a very sharp focus on the task at hand. But you have to believe that his mind is flooded with thoughts from almost every direction tonight.
Sure.
You could say we take them one game at a time. But when this is pretty close to the last, and certainly the last at home, out of thousands and thousands of games, pretty hard not to run all the top highlights through your mind as you sit there.
Wow, that's some at bat there. A couple missed bunts, ends up drawing a walk, so we may see Derek Jeter in this inning with a chance to knock in the lead run. Don't know what kind of bunter. See as Robbie Thompson goes, the third base coach, checking right now with Pirela. Usually as a DH. He probably doesn't know the signs. He hasn't been here that long, so it calls for a bunt, but oftentimes if a hitter's used as a DH, he has not been called on to bunt a great deal.
In the big leagues this year, Pirela's 3 for 10, 0 for 2 tonight. They're expecting the bunt, creeping in. He pulls back and takes a ball. The inning began with Drew striking out, but on a pass ball he reached first. Here's Dave Wallace, the pitching coach, going to the mound. At 67, he's the oldest pitching coach in the major leagues. He's had that same position with the Mets, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, and now the Orioles. Ichiro draws a walk on a 3-2 pitch, so the Yankees have runners at first and second with nobody out in a game that's been 2-2 since the first. Squares, he pulls back, and now it's 2-0.
That turn him loose now, 2-0, but the challenge for a young hitter, again, we've talked about the propensity to pull off the ball. This guy's got a good sinking fastball. Ryan Webb, the right-hander, getting loose, so the best option is to think about hitting the ball to right field.
Not disguising his intentions, and he gets the bunt down. It's a good one. Their only play is at first. Joseph throws it off the mark, and what a nightmare inning this is turning out to be for the Orioles. A strikeout pass ball, a walk, and now a throwing error on what was intended to be a sacrifice bunt. The bases are loaded with nobody out.
So I see a possibility on the horizon here.
The initial scoring on this, by the way, is a hit. Let's see if he would have been safe anyway. It's a very good bunt. Joseph off balance. Hard to tell.
Caught his spike in the grass and couldn't make that pirouette, that little turn that catchers like to make, and that's why he had to throw it off balance and offline.
So it's ruled as a bunt hit. Jeter to the on-deck circle. Gardner to the plate, where he's 1 for 3 tonight.
Wow. I don't think Joseph has caught McFarland. I mean, he's got some heavy sinking action as their closer, Zach Britton, does. The pitch that he was charged with a pass ball. I mean, the bottom fell out of that pitch down and into Stephen Drew.
So Showalter is going to let McFarland work to Gardner, but likely will go to his bullpen when Jeter steps up. They look for the double play in the middle. Paredes is about even with the bag at third. Pierce is behind Pirela at first. Up and in, 2-0. Drew at third, Ichiro at second, Pirela at first. on a strikeout wild pitch, a walk, and a bunt. That one's in there, making a pass ball on the strikeout. The effect is the same. It allowed Drew to reach first to open the inning. Brian Webb throwing in earnest now. He could be in there to face Jeter. A little topper that should get a run home. They take to the plate and they get him there. Nice play by Pierce.
Wow, check this crowd reaction.
Number 2, Derek Jeter. Number 2.
Showalter takes the ball from McFarland. Webb will come in, and Jeter's going to bat with the bases loaded. Pierce made a very good play.
Yes, he did.
Charging on the topper and got the force at the plate, cutting Drew down, leaving the bases loaded and setting the stage. However improbably, but maybe it's not so improbable when you talk about this guy. Seemed like the hands of fate are always moving in his direction.
Well, he's seen Webb twice. He's 0 for 2. Got a little word from Kevin Long, the hitting coach, on what he might expect. And this is the moment that all of his teammates, former managers, talk about. In the past, he has always had the ability to relax and say, so what if it's the 8th inning and the bases loaded? You know, it's just an at-bat. You can almost see him looking around right now, trying to relax as much as he possibly can.
So as you say, he's 0 for 2 against Webb. He's 28 years old, from Clearwater, Florida. He's been with the Padres and the Marlins before finding his way to Baltimore.
And he could be a very important part of baseball history before this next at-bat is over.
Derek Jeter, by the way, has 260 career home runs. Just one was a grand slam. Derek had an RBI double in the first. Long drive off the bullpen fence in left center near the 399 sign. Then grounded out and struck out. Bottom of the 7th, game tied at 2. This could be his final Yankee Stadium at bat. The one grand slam came in an interleague game against the Cubs in June of 2005 of Joe Borowski here at Yankee Stadium. Actually at the old Yankee Stadium. Nearly 49,000 of them. And this is precisely what they came for. A called strike. Broken bat roller. The play is to second and they throw it away. The Yankees take the lead. 2 runs come across. They were going to get one on the play because they were only going to get the force even if they had played it cleanly. So it was going to be an RBI in any case. But the error allows another run to come home and leaves the Yankees with runners at first and third and still only one out.
So his last at bat does not register as a hit, but an RBI, if in fact that is his last at bat.
Yeah, he gets an RBI, his second of the night. It's not classic. The setup was classic.
Yeah, good moving fastball in on the handle, and just again that play and that throw, an example of how adept Derek Jeter is on that play.
Fielder's choice, E6. RBI, second run scores on the error, 4-2 Yanks. Derek Jeter standing at first base saying, hey Buck, couldn't you have given me a shot at Brian Mattis? As good as Mattis is, especially in situations like this, he generally is called upon to face left-handed batters, which is why he's coming in against Brian McCann. For his career, Jeter 14 for 26 off Mattis, that's .538. 6 of the 14 hits doubles. But of course, Showalter, more than aware of that, went to Ryan Webb, who broke his bat, but it didn't turn out well for the Orioles. This whole inning is just ghastly for Baltimore. And if this score holds up, they'll be 3 games back of the Angels for best overall record in the American League, with each team having 3 to play. Angels in Seattle, Orioles in Toronto.
Caleb Joseph's going to be happy when Buck brings in a pitcher that just throws a basic fastball. Between McFarland and Mattis now with that sinker. Mattis again, a former starter, converted to a reliever. All of their lefty relief pitchers that come in, good sinking fastballs to get ground balls.
The infield looks for what would be an inning-ending double play against McCann, who doesn't run well. Here's the inning. A strikeout with a pass ball that allows Drew to reach first. Ichiro walks on a 3-2 pitch, and it was close. Perella bunts for a sacrifice. Joseph gets his cleats caught in the grass. Off-balance throw doesn't get him. Scored as a bunt hit. Gardner grounds to first, and Pierce gets Drew at the plate for the force. And then Jeter, as McCann lifts one to center. Jones and Markakis from right, and in right center, Markakis will make the catch, and Gardner can just about walk home. And it's 5-2 on the sacrifice fly by McCann. So Jeter hits a jam shot to short, would have gotten 1 run home. Hardy's throw for the attempted force at second goes awry. On the error, a second run scores. Then a sacrifice fly brings in the 3rd run of the inning. There is not a clean base hit in this inning, not a ball truly hit hard, but the Yankees have scored 3 times.
Not the kind of rally you identify with the Bronx Bombers teams in the past, but that's kind of been the story of the Yankee offense this year.
The Yankees have had a very difficult time scoring runs. And a lot of the once outstanding players that now dot their lineup are not what they once were. That includes the guy at the plate, Mark Teixeira.
Ellsbury and Beltran, the injured list.
Jeter himself. Shallow center field. Jones closing ground on it, and the Gold Glover gets there. A motley collection of bunts and walks and pass balls and errors and sacrifice flies produce 3 runs for the Yankees. And after 7 in Derek Jeter's last go-round to the Bronx, it's 5-2 New York. The postseason begins next week with the AL wildcard game Tuesday on TBS. Then the next night, the NL wildcard game on ESPN. Hiroki Kuroda has thrown 80 pitches. He now has his first lead of the night in pursuit of his 12th victory of the season against 9 defeats. Jeter alone on the left side against Johnson. Unless the Yankees have a huge bottom of the 8th, Jeter has batted for the last time at Yankee Stadium. And if they hold on to the lead, the best guess would be that he goes out there for the top of the 9th and Girardi then removes him so he can receive one last ovation. A smattering of Derek Jeter chants still as we move to the 8th. And Johnson is dispatched by Kuroda. That's his 8th strikeout of the night, which matches his season high. Here's Tom Verducci.
Guys, one of the things that Derek Jeter is legendary about with his teammates, his toughness. He's been hit with more pitches than any Yankee in history, and he always had a standard answer when the training staff wanted him to go get an X-ray. Derek would say, "I'm not getting it because it doesn't matter. What it shows, I'm playing." Of course, it was finally that broken ankle a couple of years ago that did take him out of the lineup. This is now 16 seasons that Derek has played 140 games. Only 3 players ever had more of those seasons: Pete Rose, Carl Yastrzemski, and Brooks Robinson.
The kind of company that Derek Jeter keeps throughout the baseball record book.
Kind of company you like to keep.
He's never been the most valuable player. He finished second to the Twins' Justin Morneau in 2006. He was the Rookie of the Year in '96, MVP of the All-Star Game and of the World Series in 2000.
And I don't know that he's been voted the MVP on his own team that often. You know, guys that maybe had better years statistically, like Bernie Williams, Tino Martinez one year.
Well, here's something else. The list of the guys who played in the most winning games, that's foul. Teixeira smothers it with his dive, but turns out not to matter. Pete Rose, as you might expect, was on the winning side in more big league games than anybody. Then Hank Aaron, then Carl Yastrzemski. Number 4, Derek Jeter. In 158 postseason games, which virtually equals a season, exactly 200 hits, 20 of them homers, and a batting average of .308, and that's against quality October pitching.
That got the home plate umpire right on the bare hand. The trainer's got to come out and check him out.
And professional courtesy, McCann goes to the mound to talk with Kuroda to give Adam Hamari a chance. And while all that is going on, as Hamari is given a chance to kind of shake off the effects, Jeter responded to the chance, doffed his cap, and the ovation grew louder.
Starting to get to him right now.
A swing and a miss, another strikeout for Kuroda, and it's his 9th, a season high. There have been a couple of times this week, for example, after what will doubtless be his last Yankee Stadium home run and just his 4th of the year, where the fans were chanting and chanting, but he wouldn't come out of the dugout because he thought it was disrespectful to the other players given the game situation. Same thing happened when he made the next to last out in a game earlier this week. And the fans again were beseeching him to come out, but he thought it would be disrespectful to the next hitter who was concentrating on prolonging the game, so he wouldn't do it. He's constantly expressed his appreciation for the fans, but when that collides with respect for the game as he perceives it, then he's not going to give the fans in that moment exactly what they want.
That made a big hit with Buck Showalter when he didn't do that, because instead of drawing attention to himself, he thought about the team and the situation.
A hot shot, but it's foul.
Buck was effusive in his praise for Derek about that today. He said, there he did. He made an out, and they wanted him to come out, and he said, no, my team's behind. I'm not going to disrupt the next guys at bat.
The 2-1 pitch to Caleb Joseph is in there. And you wonder how much, either after tonight or after Sunday in Boston or eventually somewhere down the road, he'll open up and share some of the thoughts that must be flooding his mind tonight. And even more so as the game draws closer to its end. Corona didn't get the call, full count.
Got a half strike there. Umpire flinched his right shoulder, changed his mind.
Little flinch and the payoff. And a pop-up in foul ground. McCann has a beat on it. Corona has been absolutely terrific. He's retired the last 16 men he's faced. No matter what, that will be a footnote on this night.
Yeah, if he gets to go out in the ninth, and that might be why Joe's sticking with him, he would reach 200 innings, which these days is a admirable level for the 5-man rotation. Be interesting to see Joe Girardi, and as he's thinking now, how am I going to do this in the top of the ninth? He told us before the game he'd asked Derek his preference. We don't know what that is. And then said you just have to kind of go with the flow of the game.
Showalter goes to his bullpen again. Brings in the veteran left-hander Joe Saunders. 4 men would have to reach for the Yankees here in the bottom of the 8th for Jeter to bat again. The highlight of the night came early. A double off the left center field fence that produced the Yankees' first run, and then Jeter scored later in that inning to tie the game at 2. And Derek was at the plate when the Yankees took the lead back in the bottom of the 7th. He has 3 RBIs. Check it. He has 2 RBIs tonight and a run scored. Trip down memory lane. Somebody's probably saved every baseball card. You got the whole set. It has some value.
And then after this year, there will be a Legend series, so he'll continue to be on different trading cards. I actually have a signed card from him in his minor league days. He was actually on a trading card as a minor league player.
Pretty much forgotten now, the 58 errors he made as a young player in the minor leagues in Greensboro.
Andy Pettit talked about that, if making a couple in his game that Andy pitched.
And he's been charged with one tonight.
Well, he's had a little of everything. He's got, when you read the hitting line tomorrow, if the game stays like this, he's going to have a hit, a run scored, an RBI.
2 RBIs.
2 RBIs, made a couple of neat fielding plays, and also made an error. And you could tell the error early in the game. There was a lot more tension. Right now, I don't think it's tension. You could see the facial expression last inning. It's just the pure emotion of realizing how close to the end it is. Teammates leaving him alone with his thoughts.
Headley, Young, and Drew for the Yankees. Chase is 0 for 2 with a walk. Joe Saunders in his 13th game with a record of 0-5 and an ERA that he'd rather we not mention, so I'll do it quickly. 7.02.
And they put a message on the Jumbotron last inning. This will be a unique situation for fans. They're all invited to stay in their seats after the game and listen to and watch on the Jumbotron Derek Jeter's post-game press conference.
And one of the first questions will be, will you play in Boston?
Well, he had an answer for that yesterday.
He said, yeah, ask me tomorrow. Line drive caught by the leaping Paredes.
Well, he was a little upset because, buddy, we just got eliminated from postseason play. We're a little disappointed right now, so I really don't care to address that question. One of the few more testy sides of Derek was his answer to that question. Doesn't happen often.
Chris Young, an infield hit, a ground out, and a strikeout. The Yankees have 5 runs on 4 hits. The Orioles have helped them with 3 errors. The Orioles have 2 runs on 3 hits. The first 2 hitters, Markakis and Diaz, homered off Kuroda. Since then, he's been more than stingy. He's allowed only 1 hit, and he's retired the last 16 men he's faced. (3-0). David Robertson in the Yankee pen. He is their closer. He's also a free agent after this year. He's done very well, but Dellin Betances has really made an impression this year, made the All-Star team, and they could very well let Robertson sign elsewhere and cast their lot with Betances as Young draws a 1-out walk.
Fans looking down their lineup card right now saying, oh, a couple of more walks, we can see him one more time.
Derek himself well aware that 3 more will have to reach for him to get an at-bat in this 8th inning. The Orioles' chance to catch the Angels for best record in the American League grows more remote. If this score holds up, they'll be 3 behind with 3 for each team to play. In that case, they'd have to sweep the Blue Jays. The Mariners would have to sweep the Angels. They'd finish with the same record, and the tiebreak would belong to Baltimore because they won 4-6 against the Angels this year. One and 2 to Stephen Drew. He's 0 for 3. But in his 3rd at-bat of the night, his strikeout actually started a 3-run Yankee 7th. He reached on a pass ball. And then a whole series of things went wrong for the Orioles. A little topper. It's fair. Pierce will wait for Drew and tag him out. To second is Young with 2 out. And we check again with Tom.
Guys, when I asked Brian McCann, the Yankees catcher, about his takeaway playing this season with Derek Jeter, he said, I've learned the importance of routine. And the best example I can give you about Derek Jeter sticking to routines is the model bat that he uses. Drafted back in 1992, he had never used a wooden bat before. He went to rookie league ball and stood over a bin in the Yankees minor league complex and picked a wood bat he thought most resembled his high school metal bat. That was a Louisville Slugger P72 model. Now, since then, Derek Jeter has taken more than 14,000 professional plate appearances. In every one of them, he's used a P72, including that last time up we saw here at Yankee Stadium. It looked like that bat died a hero, a broken bat, inappropriately a 2-2 game, driving in the go-ahead run.
Was named after a big league player named Pinkham. It will now be called a DJ 72. And players over the years, Ralph Kiners was a K55, Willie McCovey an MC 44. The initials are all about a player.
2-0 pitch to Ichiro is in there. After making those 58 errors as a young minor leaguer in Greensboro, Jeter switched to a smaller glove, and ever since then, and that predates his hitting the major leagues, he's never changed his glove model either. Ichiro slaps one back to the mound. Saunders has it, and we go to the ninth, and now we'll see how Girardi plays it.
Guess is he may send Derek out there all by himself and tell the rest of his position players just stay here.
Well, Teixeira's actually first out of the dugout. That would not have been a bad idea.
That shoots that theory.
Your sense of theater is excellent. But that's not what they're going to do.
I thought he might go around the dugout and say, look guys, stay in and just let Derek go out there.
David Robertson is coming in from the bullpen. He'll try to finish it off for Hiroki Kuroda, who was just magnificent after the first two hitters tagged him for homers.
So what do you think? 2 out in the ninth?
That would make sense theatrically. It's the top of the order in this top of the ninth. Markakis, Diaza, and Jones. You think about what might have been. And drafting in baseball, it's dicey in any sport, but you get a better gauge in football and basketball because usually the player has some sort of college experience which is closer to professional experience than scholastic baseball is. So Derek Jeter was taken 6th in the 1992 draft. Houston had a shot at him. They picked first, and they took Phil Nevin, who had a pretty good big league career, some good years with the Padres. Paul Shuey went next to Cleveland, had a number of years out of their bullpen and around Major League Baseball. A very highly regarded young pitcher named B.J. Wallace was taken by the Expos, and he never pitched a single inning in the major leagues. Then came the Orioles, who took Jeffrey Hammonds, who had a 13-year major league career, pretty good player, but not a Hall of Famer or anything close, was an All-Star once. Then came the Reds, who took Chad Mottola. And the Yankees, holding their breath, then were able to say, we want Jeter with the 6th pick.
Disappointed a couple scouts. One of my boyhood pitchers I listened to when I was a boy, Prince Hal Newhouser of the Tigers, quit his job with the Astros after 53 years in the game because they didn't take his recommendation. Gene Bennett, longtime scout with the Reds, went to bed thinking they were going to draft Jeter, and when they didn't and drafted Chad Mottola, he went to Jim Bowden and said, you just made the biggest mistake this organization has made.
I don't think any of them would disagree now. It appears as if not a single soul has left this ballpark. Sellout crowd, nearly 49,000. They will stay to the very end. Markakis homered, struck out, line down. Between innings, various tributes from ball players and baseball figures with their thoughts on Derek Jeter up on the big board, or highlights of iconic moments from Jeter's career. And now his family has moved down, at least his mom and dad moved down from the suite to box seats closer to the action. Sister Charlie is there to the right of her dad Charles. Mom Dorothy, better known as Dot. That's Jalen, Charlie's little boy, on her lap. Appears to be muttering to himself as he stands out there at shortstop. Comfortable in almost every situation. But this one isn't quite like any he's faced before. The 1-2 from Robertson to Markakis. 2-2. And then there's this. We're now in a time where everything is recorded and replayed. For most people, Ted Williams' last at bat, last game, it's word of mouth, or the John Updike essay. In a sense, there's a little more mystique and romance attached to that which we don't all see and don't all experience over and over again. But this is the era in which Derek Jeter has played, and his every move has been chronicled. The 3-2 pitch. Walked him, and both the 2-2 and the 3-2 didn't miss by much. So the O's now a base runner away from bringing the tying run to the plate. Diaza, who homered earlier, is the hitter. Adam Jones, who has hit 27 out of the park this year, and Cruz, who leads the majors with 40, are waiting behind him. Headley in close. Diaza a threat to bunt.
You saw that shot of Joe Girardi. Most of the time, this part of the game, managers are thinking strategy. Right now, Joe Girardi's thinking, wait a minute. Maybe I shouldn't take him out. They come back and tie it. He'll have an at bat in the bottom of the ninth.
You know, it's automatic, virtually automatic, that you go to your closer no matter the score, no matter how well your starter is pitching. But Kuroda had thrown 95 pitches. He'd retired the last 16 men he'd faced. He'd struck out 9, he'd walked none. He'd allowed 1 hit since the first 2 guys homered. Now he's not in the game. The 0-2. He lays off.
Joe Girardi just wants 2 outs so he can feel comfortable taking Derek out.
Well, there's one of them.
Of course, the other...
A double play could end the game.
The other possibility now, too, is... a double play.
If somehow the Orioles either tie the game or take the lead, and if Jeter is still in, he'd be the 3rd hitter in the bottom of the 9th. Jones hitless on the night in 3 trips. All of the Yankees and all of the Orioles up and along the railing.
And everybody standing in the bullpens as well.
And just about every one of the 49,000 in attendance on their feet.
including the two of us in the booth.
Breaking ball, hit foul. A man always so at ease, always so comfortable, noticeably fidgety on this big night. Check swing foul back to the screen. Now Jeter goes into a crouch out at shortstop. Deep breaths. A tug at the bill of the cap. Knowing that all of us, we in the booth included, are watching his every move. That spins Jones away, 2-2.
Buck Showalter saying, whoa, we don't need that going to postseason play. Hitting our all-around star player.
If Jones can reach, the leading home run hitter in the majors would be the tying run at the plate. Nelson Cruz next. A long drive to left field, down the line, and it's gone. And in fact, Cruz will be the tying run at the plate as the two-run shot by Jones, his 28th of the year, makes it 5-4. With the exception of the long double by Jeter, the Yankees with a pea shooter attack all night with the help of some shaky defense by the Orioles. Baltimore, on the other hand, leading the major leagues in home runs, has 3 of them tonight.
And Hiroki Kuroda, again, victim of today's game of specialization. As you pointed out, he was near perfect from the first inning on.
The Orioles have 4 hits. 3 of them are home runs. Here's Cruz. For what it may be worth, when the Orioles homer 3 or more times this year, they're 26-0. This is the 27th time, and they trail by 1 in the 9th. That one bounces up there, a ball and a strike. Here's something else. Counting 0 for 3 tonight, Nelson Cruz, who could tie it with a single swing, was 3 for 28 lifetime against Kuroda. Foul back. Steve Pearce, who has 20 home runs for the season, is on deck. A swing and a miss, strike 3. Mixed bag for Robertson. Couple of strikeouts, but he's also yielded a walk and a home run. And as Pearce heads for the plate, Jeter remains at short.
Which tells us that he said to Joe Girardi, I want to play all 9.
Again, they shift for the right-handed hitting Pearce. 3 infielders on the left side. It would be appropriate, if he's going to make it out here, that he hit it to Jeter. Instead, he drives one to deep left field. Back goes Young, looking up. Tie game. All of Hiroki Kuroda's good work down the drain.
What a shame.
The 4th home run of the night, and the only silver lining in the Bronx is that Jeter will bat in the bottom half of the inning. Four homers for the night. 2 from the first 2 batters in the game, and 2 here in the 9th.
Yeah, unless Derek comes up with some heroics in the bottom of the 9th, kind of takes a little of the luster off what had been such a great pitching performance and a positive night for the Yankees in general. But that's the game today. Specialization automatically. You go to your closer in the 9th inning. Robertson's been one of the best, but not tonight.
Down to their last out. Steve Pearce ties the game for the Orioles. And Jeter pretty much knew it from the crack of the bat. J.J. Hardy, who, like more than a few big league shortstops, wears number 2 as an homage to Derek Jeter. Oh for 3, a couple of strikeouts, and a long fly out to left. And the 0-2 pitch. In the air to right center field. Gardner says, "I'll take it," and he does, but not before. The Orioles score 3 times on a walk and a pair of homers. Adam Jones and Steve Pearce connect, and Jeter will be the 3rd hitter in the bottom of the 9th.
And the 3-2 pitch. Swung on a drill to right field. Going back Sanders on the track at the wall. See ya! See ya! See ya! He is Mr. November.
Michael Kay, now the television voice of the Yankees, on the radio back in 2001. Those remarkable back-to-back games when Tino Martinez and then Scott Brocious, down to their last out, each hit game-tying home runs in the bottom of the 9th, and the Yankees won both games against the Diamondbacks. Actually won all 3. They took game 5 also, and then the D-backs won game 6 going away at home, and then in game 7 they rallied in the 9th and won the whole thing. But that was the Mr. November home run, because it was October 31st when the game started, and the clock struck midnight just before Derek Jeter struck with the game-winning home run. New 3rd baseman for the Orioles, Ryan Flaherty. New pitcher, 31-year-old right-hander Evan Meek. He's 0-3. with an ERA of 5.48. Started his career with the Pirates. Has been with the Orioles the last couple of years. Hit sharply but foul by Perella. Meek has been up and down between Baltimore and AAA Norfolk all year long. They brought him back when the rosters expanded on September 1st. This is his 5th stint with the Orioles. Actually made the All-Star team in 2010 as a Pirate when his ERA was just over 2 in 70 appearances. Curveball is high. Meek is the 6th Orioles pitcher tonight. The Yankees might have been able to notch a victory if they'd stuck with only one. Bucks team comes back and wins this game, they can sweep Toronto, and the Mariners can help them out by taking 2 of 3 against the Angels as Perella opens the 9th with a hit. Big turn at first. Is trying to draw a throw, but now retreats.
He's got a little Yasiel Puig in him with that electrifying turn around first base.
Well, it's setting up for Jeter again, isn't it? just to finish, if the Orioles should win this game, if they could sweep Toronto, and if the Mariners could help them by winning 2 or 3 from the Angels, they would have, by virtue of a tiebreaker, the #1 seed in the postseason in the American League, which would come in handy should they meet Anaheim in the LCS. Brett Gardner is a very good bunter. Antoine Richardson comes off the bench as the pinch runner. Another one of the September call-ups. Gardner has 12 sacrifice bunts this year. He's 1 for 4 tonight. Singled and scored in the first. Flaherty just into the game, in on the grass at third. Pierce holding Richardson at first.
Yeah, and Buck Showalter's in a tough position right now. Gardner's going to bunt. Now first base is open. You heard his comments early. He said, we're kind of glad Derek's retiring. You know, he's damaged us too much. So, how do you think these fans are going to feel if Buck Showalter says walk him on 4?
Ooh, might need a police escort to get out. Gardner with a good bunt. They get him at first. Successful sacrifice. And here we go.
Now batting for the Yankees, #2, Derek Jeter.
Jeter has 1 plate appearance against Evan Meek, and he walked. Waiting for Joseph to get down in the crouch. He's still standing. If he extends his right arm, we'll be able to hear the boos all the way to Staten Island. But instead, he gets into a crouch.
Competitive as Buck is, I don't think he dares to do this.
Well, that much praised Gatorade commercial that has Derek Jeter walking through the area around Yankee Stadium, serenaded by Frank Sinatra. To the end here, he did it his way, shooting a base hit to right, as he so often did. I think even Hiroki Kuroda can smile after this. Robertson blew his victory, but it set the stage for the walk-off base hit by Derek Jeter in the bottom of the 9th in his last Yankee Stadium home game.
And look at the lineup of former teammates waiting to greet him.
Bernie Williams, Joe Torre, Jorge Posada, Andy Pettitte. To the very end, a charmed baseball life. It was supposed to rain all night. Not a drop fell during the entire game.
You can't script this. I mean, you're not surprised at it because of who he is, and yet you just say it's just magical his entire career.
Look at the Oriole dugout.
Yeah. They're not leaving.
Their last realistic chance to have the #1 record in the league just slipped away.
And they've got a plane to catch to Toronto, so great respect.
The idea of how special this moment is not lost on anybody in this ballpark, including the opposition. if you submitted a script that read like this at the beginning of the night, people would have rolled their eyes.
Yep. And yet you're not surprised. I mean, when he came up in that situation, not walking him, it wasn't a surprise that he got a hit.
Mariano Rivera there to embrace him.
Tino Martinez.
Almost 1,200 of his career hits have gone to the opposite field. And now he stands alone on the diamond in the Bronx. The 3,463rd and perhaps last lifetime hit for Derek Jeter wins the game for the Yanks in the bottom of the ninth. And look at the Oriole dugout. It wasn't just what he did. It was the way he did it. From the beginning to the very end. His night at the plate began with an RBI double. It ends with a game-winning RBI single.
I think he's looking for his parents.
They came down from upstairs toward the end of the game. There's his little nephew, Jalen, wearing the respect hat. Well, now, after a scenario this perfect plays itself out, can he play at Fenway?
I wouldn't.
Don't cry.
He's speaking with Meredith Marakovitz of the Yes Network.
To be honest with you, I don't know how I played this game. I went up my first at bat. I forgot my elbow guard. I was throwing balls away. I was giving signs to Drew at second base, and there's no one on base. So I was all messed up. But I want to thank everyone here. I've said it time and time again. You know, everybody's chanting, "Thank you, Derek," and I'm thinking to myself, for what? You know, I'm just trying to do my job. So thank you guys.
Derek, for 20 straight years, you've put on that uniform. Coming to the ballpark today, knowing it was the last time you were taking the field here in the Bronx and putting on those pinstripes, what was that feeling like for you?
It was odd. I mean, if I'm going to be honest with you, these last few weeks have gotten tougher and tougher. I've told you members of the media I didn't want to talk about it because I try not to think about it. But it was very, very difficult, but it's all worthwhile.
You've always been focused on one thing, and that one thing has been winning and winning championships. Were you able to take a step back today and kind of take it all in?
Yeah, I mean, this was a lot of fun. I mean, thank you.
You had quite the greeting community there with the core four here, some of your other teammates, Joe Torre. What was it like to see them here on the field supporting you in your final game?
It's, you know, those guys are like brothers. You know, Mr. T's like a father. The whole organization, the fans. I want to congratulate the Orioles and wish them luck going into the playoffs. They deserve it.
Before I let you go, what are you going to miss most about this uniform and this place?
Everything. But most importantly, I'm going to miss the fans. They're what made this special.
Derek, thanks for the time.
Well, now as he speaks with Susan Waldman from the Yankees radio network, and our own Tom Berducci is standing by for his chance to talk with Derek. People wondered, will he break down? Will he cry? His voice quivered a little bit, but that's about as close as he'll come.
But I think the emotion of, say, not being taken out in the 9th inning, when there would have been a lot more emotion on ending his career, it was ending the game with a game-winning hit. Brought that joy back to him.
On the first pitch, the swing we've come to expect from him. We've seen so many times. He leaps in the air as young Antoine Richardson comes sprinting home from second. Head first dive to score the game-winning run. The reaction from his dad and his mom and his sister. Dramatics without histrionics. That's been the story of his career.
We saw his signature play, and to end it, we saw his signature hit.
Truly. In a sense, that was more classic Derek Jeter than if he had hit a home run. An opposite field base hit. Big hole between first and second. No matter what happens for the rest of Antoine Richardson's baseball career, he can tell everybody, I scored the run on Derek Jeter's last Yankee Stadium at bat and maybe his last big league at bat. And a Gatorade bath.
They were scared to do that.
CC Sabathia to embrace him. Brett Gardner, whose sacrifice bunt was essential in the inning. It moved Richardson into scoring position. Here's Tom with Derek.
Derek, we knew you could play shortstop. Now I think we know you can write scripts too. How much fun was that?
Ah, man, I mean, I don't even know what just happened, to be honest with you. I was out there short, and for the first time in my career, I was saying, please don't hit it to me, because I thought I was going to lose it. And then all of a sudden, you got to get ready to hit. So I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Derek, a boy in Michigan, grew up with one dream, to play shortstop for the New York Yankees. You've lived that dream for 20 years. Now the New York portion of that dream, it's over. What are your emotions right now?
You know, it's weird. I mean, if the game would have just ended in the top of the 9th, I'd be in tears right now. But it's just a run of emotions. You know, now I'm very happy. I'm excited. You know, the fans, you always try to have good games and do something special for them, and I could do it one last time, and I'm happy for that.
Now, obviously, you built a career one game at a time, staying in the moment. Tonight, how much reflecting did you do, and what were those thoughts?
A lot, man. Like I said, What's up, buddy? Yeah, I mean, right from the first inning, I was saying, don't hit me a ground ball. And then I got ahead in the count in the first inning, calmed me down a little bit. But I was extremely nervous. I was uncomfortable, but it all worked out.
Last time you'll play at pinstripes. Will we see you play in Boston?
Yeah, I'll play in some capacity. To be quite honest with you, I think this is probably my last game at shortstop. You know, I want to remember that view right there I had today. But you know, out of respect to the Boston fans and the rivalry, I will play in some capacity.
Finally, Derek, 9th inning, the fans are chanting, "Thank you, Derek." What's your response?
Well, I mean, I'm wondering why they're thanking me. You know, I'm the one that should be thanking them. I just came here and tried to do my job. It's been fun, man. It's been a fun 20 years, and it wouldn't have been this much fun without them.
Derek, thank you very much.
How about that little guy, his nephew Jalen? Think he'll have something for the photo album or the video catalog?
I mean, typical Derek Jeter. Everything just started perfectly, ended perfectly, and you know, he conveyed his emotions, which we could see and read on his face. It's like, please don't hit it to me, which is the first time he's ever said that in his entire career. So you knew the nerves were there, but the opportunity to game-winning hit turned it from emotion to joy. Couldn't have been a more perfect night, and boy, what a treat to be a part of this.
Only with Derek Jeter involved can a blown lead, a horrendous blown lead, a 5-2 lead, when the starting pitcher has been impeccable, your closer comes in, messes the whole deal up, except it sets the stage for a baseball moment that we'll never forget.
I guess Joe Girardi knew what was going to happen, taking Kuroda out, and Derek still walking and acknowledging the fans. Well, I don't know if any athlete anywhere has bonded with the fans more than Derek has.
And it seems that not one of those fans has left the ballpark.
Tom pointed out earlier, and you mentioned it, the #1 selling jersey for the last 7 years, except for the year he didn't play.
He's 40 years old. He's hitting in the 250s. But at the All-Star game, he got a couple of hits, including a double. His last game at home, he got a couple of hits, including a double. And the last one is one that will be part of highlight reels long after all of us who are in the ballpark tonight
Instant
are gone.
classic, an instant classic.
Mom and Dad. How does the lyric go? I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was.
Yeah. That was our open on the showcase game says, you know, it's not heaven, but it's pretty darn close.
You know, it's a business, and you're around it for a long time, and you see some things that maybe are at odds with the romance you felt for the game when you were a kid. But almost without fail, every year something happens within baseball that renews your faith, takes you back to when you were a kid, reminds you of why you love the game. And Derek Jeter has provided so many of those moments.
And you know, in the open today, I was thinking about, you know, there's all the statistics, everything you can say about Derek and his accomplishments, but I wanted to focus on knowing him as a person and as a player for all the years I covered the Yankees. And the first words that came to my thoughts that came to my mind is the joy that he's brought to fans. And could tonight's game be any bigger example of the joy that he's brought everyone?
Talk about a guy who always seemed to have a sense of the moment.
Yeah.
And the moment seemed to always come to him right to the very end.
Well, I guess the you know, the lesson there would be, you know, good things happen to people that do things right, play the game right, wears the uniform right, treats his teammates right, is always interested in advancing others instead of himself. And he gets rewarded tonight with a magical night to close out his career here in Yankee Stadium.
I think part of the reason why he was uncomfortable with much of what went on, especially after the Yankees fell out of realistic contention and then this week were officially eliminated, he's always been a star among stars. He was always kind of the player who was the face of the franchise from the 90s on. But there's never been a circumstance until now when he was the sole focus. This game didn't mean anything to the Yankees.
Right.
So he was the sole focus. And I think he was very uncomfortable with that.
No question. And we have to take a minute here to really give a lot of credit to the Baltimore Orioles. The respect they showed him by standing and applauding him till this was all over. And then, as Derek told Tom Verducci. We had speculated on that before the game, that this would be his last game at shortstop. But because he's respectful of the Boston fans, you know, there's people that paid big money to see Derek come to Boston. It doesn't mean anything. He's going to be the DH and probably take a couple at bats and doff his cap. So he's going to do the right thing, as he always does.
And whatever happens, it will in no way detract from what happened here tonight.
No, this will be, as you said, there is not one fan that left this stadium all night, and they're going to be talking about this game. There are 49,000 people. Probably in another month we'll hear there was 100,000 people here. Everybody's going to want to say they were at this game.
The boss would have approved.
Yeah, no question. Well, the Yankees made a great decision back in 1992 at the expense of 5 other teams that didn't pick Derek first. And he got his wish. Dave Winfield was his hero. Always wanted to play for the Yankees. And boy, did he play for the Yankees.
Somebody said this week that sometimes Derek frustrated George Steinbrenner because George liked to get under people's skins, people who worked for him in any capacity, prod them, criticize them. He couldn't find anything really to gripe about concerning Derek. Remember they did that commercial many years ago when Derek was early in his career, and he calls a sheepish Jeter into his office and says, Derek, I'm getting reports you're a young man, you like to go out on the town, you know, I'm very, very concerned about this. And Jeter pretends that, yeah, okay, I'll do whatever you say, boss.
And the other thing that Joe Torre pointed out in his visit with us in the 2nd inning, which was so cool, when Derek had made a base running blunder, as soon as he came to the bench, he went and sat right between Joe and Zim and waited to get scolded. And all Joe could do was laugh.
Well, after tonight, except at an old-timers event, no single-digit uniform will ever be worn by a Yankee player in the Bronx. That's a paraphrase of what Joe DiMaggio said. Want to thank the good Lord for making me a Yankee. If ever there was a guy who embodied the best of what the Yankees are supposed to represent, who embodied that mystique, who deserved to have his name join the roll call with Ruth and Gehrig and DiMaggio and Mantle and Ford and Berra and his teammate Rivera. Is he the very best of all those players? No. But he is an all-time great player who embodied everything you want in a baseball player.
And it was a lot of fun for me watching him do this for more than a dozen years.
And on a night when it was supposed to rain, Derek Jeter once again reigns in the Bronx. Apparently, there will be some appearances at Fenway Park. But this pretty much figures to be the final chapter in a glorious baseball story written by Derek Jeter. Kitty, what a pleasure. Even more so than usual tonight. The Yankees win it 6-5 on a game-winning base hit by Derek Jeter. Good night from the Bronx.